In this era, the allure of virtual reality had grown so potent that for many, it had become more compelling than reality itself. It was within one such virtual world that the concept of true, irreversible death existed. A young man, Kenzaki Raito, lay unconscious in a hospital bed, the steady beep of machinery echoing around him. A few days after his high school life began, he stood outside his home, tossing his bag aside with a sigh of relief. The school day was finally over. He entered his room, his eyes falling upon a large, newly arrived package. It was for a game called Astral Border. He stood for a moment, stunned into silence by the sight of it. His shock gave way to elation as he lifted the advanced virtual reality headset from the box. He couldn't believe it. He had been chosen. Lying on his bed with the gear equipped, he reflected that as someone who never quite fit in with his class, he had been eagerly anticipating this MMORPG. With his preparations complete, he initiated the connection. He plunged into the world of Astral Border, the very game that would become the source of all his future trials. Before him stretched a vast, frozen landscape dominated by a colossal, crystalline tower. Within this world, danger was ever present. A lone knight cautiously advanced through a field, while a small, goblin-like creature lurked nearby, waiting for its moment to strike. Elsewhere, Raito found himself in a desperate battle. A monstrous, oversized wolf charged directly at him, its claws tearing up the ground as a distant voice screamed his name in warning. He grunted in pain, but refused to yield. Leaping into the air, he unleashed a spell, shouting for his foe to take the blow. A level 1 flame rune erupted below, inflicting 26 points of damage, even as his own status showed his health at an impossible 0. He catches his breath as a system notification confirms his victory over a wild bear, granting him 360 experience points. The party's brave knight, Yagami Soma, apologizes for his own shortcomings as a vanguard, admitting that Raito was a lifesaver. As Soma checks on his condition, another teammate remarks on the high damage dealt by Raito, the runecaster. The party's hunter, Hayakawa Iori, then offers her own assessment, suggesting Raito would be more effective on the front lines than Soma. He quickly rejects the notion, explaining that as a runecaster with paper-thin defenses, such a move would be a death sentence. As they discuss strategy, a gentle light envelopes them. The party's healer casts a level 1 healing spell, her voice filled with concern as she asks if everyone is alright. She introduces herself as Asahina Miya, the sacred shrine maiden, and encourages them to speak up if they aren't at full health. Soma and Iori confirm they're fine, and Raito agrees. He looks over his new companions, and a quiet realization settles in. This is his party. Their adventure continues, taking them from the wilderness to a bustling town. The world of Astral Border operates like many other games of its kind. Players choose a class, gather allies, and set out on quests. But the similarities soon prove to be superficial. Seated in a tavern, a loud growl from Raito's stomach interrupts their meal. He questions the need for such a realistic hunger mechanic. Iori points out the trade-off. While monster attacks cause real pain, their bodies move with the same freedom as they do in the real world. He chews on a piece of food, contemplating the game's profound realism, which extends from basic bodily functions to the sharp sting of pain. Soma concurs, remarking that the immersive nature of the world makes it easy to lose track of reality. Iori chimes in, mentioning that the game world offers experiences they can't have in their own. The conversation continues, but Raito's focus turns inward. He silently questions the motives of the game's developers, wondering what kind of person would create a world with such unforgiving realism. The thought hangs in the air, a stark and terrifying question born from the game's oppressive nature. Is there no way to log out? The question lingers as the four of them sit around the table, the cheerful tavern atmosphere now feeling distant and cold. An unsettling silence falls over the party as the reality of their situation begins to dawn on them. He stood alone in a vast, silent hall, the words of the world's goddess echoing around him. A new quest had been given, and with it, a terrible condition. Until this world was saved, he could not log out. This fate was not his alone. Approximately 5,000 test players were now prisoners in this game, their hands hovering over logout buttons that no longer functioned. In the ensuing chaos, the trapped players fractured. Some lost their will to live, sinking into despair in back alleys, while others embraced lawlessness, engaging in crime and preying upon the vulnerable. Fortunately, Kanzaki had found a group that shared his views. Seated together in a tavern, he raised his mug and proposed they continue their adventure. Soma voiced his agreement, and the others signaled their resolve to do their best. As they sat, Ruri voiced a troubling thought. She wondered if it might be possible to log out if someone in the real world physically removed the device from their heads. But she quickly conceded that the possibility of that happening was extremely slim. Mia agreed, pointing out that they were all still here. Soma added grimly that a week had already passed, and he hadn't heard of a single person who had managed to log out. The conversation then turned to an even more terrifying rule buried within the game's terms. A stark reality confronted them. If you die in-game, your real body also dies. Kanzaki considered the implications. He reasoned that if someone were to die, it would surely cause a massive uproar in the real world. He then quietly reflected that his own family must be worried, before admitting to himself that, in a dark way, he was lucky on that point. He then revealed the truth of his isolation. His parents didn't care about him, he had no siblings, and he didn't even have friends. As he spoke, his hand seemed to flicker, the image of it dissolving into particles of light. Sensing his despair, Mia reached across the table and firmly grasped his hand. She told him it would be fine, declaring with unwavering conviction that the four of them would clear the game and log out together. She offers him a warm, reassuring smile, her expression softening. Moved by her sincerity, Kanzaki can only utter her name in response. He affirms his commitment with a simple Ruri, crossing her arms, reminds him that this shared purpose is precisely why they formed their party in the first place, a sentiment with which Soma concurs. His resolve, now solidified, Kanzaki's face sets with determination as he rallies them with a powerful cry to begin. Their voices join his in a unified shout of agreement, echoing across the town square as they set out. And so their journey began in earnest. They honed their skills against local monsters, traveled across open fields toward distant strongholds, fled from winged beasts in treacherous forests, and diligently prepared for the challenges ahead at the guild. As they settled in for the night, the reality of their situation remained. Though they could not log out, the world itself was meticulously crafted. Inside their room, Mia and Ruri changed their clothes, while outside the door, Kanzaki and Soma reacted with flustered embarrassment. Through these experiences, they began to understand more about the world they were trapped in, a world intricately linked to their own. Their growing understanding was immediately put to the test as they confronted a monstrous, heavily armored creature that let out a deafening roar, its massive polearm poised to strike. The formidable beast, the Orc King, glared at them with pure malice, vowing that they would not get anywhere near its master, Azareth. Kanzaki immediately takes command, casting a protection rune just as the Orc King's weapon smashes down. Soma braces his shield against the devastating blow, acknowledging how deadly the strike would have been without the magical barrier. As he holds the line, Ruri takes aim with her crossbow, unleashing a multi-snipe attack and yelling for him to endure the onslaught. He unleashes a swirling vortex with his S-Wind rune as Ruri provides covering fire from her crossbow. While Soma holds a line against the Orc King's immense strength, Mia casts a wide-area healing spell, mending the party's wounds amidst the chaos. The coordinated assault proves overwhelming, and with a final, explosive impact, the monstrous Orc King is utterly destroyed. As the dust settles, Kanzaki clenches his fist in triumph, declaring one boss defeated. Soma, catching his breath, enthusiastically agrees that they've done it. His momentary celebration gives way to a more profound understanding. He now grasps a fundamental truth. This world is governed by the demon god Azareth, and the only way to truly win is to defeat him. This shared purpose solidifies the bond between them. Looking at his companions, Kanzaki feels a deep sense of gratitude for having been able to meet them all. And so, their long journey began. They traveled across the world, undertaking countless quests to hone their skills and grow stronger, all with the singular goal of one day defeating the demon god Azareth. From a moment they first entered the world of Astral Border, their path was set. One day, after much travel, they finally pinpointed their ultimate destination on a map, the domain of Azareth. That day has finally arrived. After 3 years and 6 months of struggle, the party stands on a precipice, gazing at the dark fortress of their final enemy. Kanzaki turns to his companions, asking if they are ready. In response, Mia poses a critical question that cuts through the pre-battle tension, asking what everyone plans to do if they can finally log out. Ruri expresses her disbelief, questioning the timing of such a conversation right before their last battle. He listens as Mia is the first to answer his question, her expression soft and hopeful. She declares her desire to meet all of them in the real world. Her heartfelt wish brings a moment of levity. Soma agrees it sounds nice, and Kanzaki suggests they could play other, non-VR games together. Iori, however, seems taken aback before quietly stating her own wish, to see where Raito lives. Her unexpected comment throws Kanzaki off balance. Mia gasps, realizing Iori's interest was aimed at Raito. As Iori flusteredly denies it, Kanzaki clears his throat, trying to steer the group's focus back to the task at hand by placing his hand over Soma's fist. He calls out to everyone, and they join in, placing their hands together. With renewed determination, Kanzaki raises his fist and shouts for them to win this fight. The others join him, their voices united in a single, powerful cry. Their unified shout echoes as they approach their final destination. A brilliant flash of light reveals the towering, ominous silhouette of the demon god's fortress. Inside the throne room, they finally confront their adversary. The demon god Azareth looms before them, a monstrous, multi-limbed titan of dark armor, brandishing an arsenal of wicked blades. The colossal being speaks, its voice booming through the chamber. It identifies itself as the demon god Azareth and commands them to die in despair. Unfazed, Kanzaki declares that this is their last battle and that they will all go home to the real world. With their goal clear in their minds, Kanzaki gives the order. The party surges forward as one, charging across the throne room floor to engage the final enemy. The battle is over. The throne room is a ruin of shattered pillars and burning embers. Amidst the devastation, the broken, smoking husk of the demon god's armor lies motionless. Kanzaki stands alone, surveying this silent destruction. He stumbles, his strength finally giving out, and collapses to his knees. As he catches his breath, a formal notification materializes, confirming their victory. The demon god Azareth has been defeated. In a quiet, exhausted voice, he murmurs that they did it. He turns to his companions, a triumphant smile on his face, and declares their victory. But his celebration is cut short as his eyes widen in horror. His gaze falls upon the brutal aftermath. Hayakawa, Iori, and Yagami Soma are dead, their bodies pierced and their health depleted. Only Ashihina Miya remains standing, her own life force critically low. Before he can react, Miya's staff slips from her grasp and clatters onto the stone floor. As she collapses, a formal announcement echoes through the chamber, congratulating player Kanzaki Raito on his successful defeat of the demon god Azareth. The words offer no comfort. He is utterly alone. He remains frozen until another message materializes before him. It informs him that as a reward for clearing the game, he has been granted a single wish. The message clarifies the grim reality. All of his party members have perished. As such, they are ineligible for any reward. The system prompts him again, asking for his wish. He scoffs bitterly to himself. A game where you die when it's over. What a terrible design. The choice, he thinks, is obvious. With renewed determination burning in his eyes, he declares his wish aloud, for all of them to log out of the game. The system immediately rejects his request, stating twice that it is impossible to grant a wish for deceased party members. But as it speaks, a familiar rune begins to glow on the back of his hand. He realizes there might be another way. He activates the power within him, the resurrection rune. He understands its terrible cost, a forbidden recovery magic, learned only at the apex of his skill, that allows him to resurrect his friends by sacrificing his own life. He recalls their voices from the past. Miya had questioned if such a spell even existed. Iori had warned it was too dangerous to be considered a trump card, and Soma had pleaded with him not to do something so reckless. They had told him, but his choice was made. He clenches his fist, undeterred by the system's warning. A voice repeats that the clear reward cannot be given to his party members, and that if he activates the resurrection rune, he will die before even knowing if they were revived. This confirmation, however, brings him a sense of relief. If his death is the cost, then their resurrection is guaranteed. With his resolve solidified, he activates the forbidden magic. The resurrection rune flares to life, its brilliant light engulfing him as visions of his fallen comrades, Miya, Ruri, and Soma, flash before his eyes. As his body begins to dissolve into particles of light, his final thought is a simple, heartfelt wish: to meet everyone again once they have logged out. His sacrifice triggers a cascade of system announcements. Kanzaki Raito has achieved the clear conditions. Ashihina Miya, Hayakawa Ruri, and Yagami Soma have been resurrected. Kanzaki Raito has died. Yet, even in death, his level has increased by 30, and he has obtained a clear reward, a God-class special skill. As his consciousness fades, a distant voice calls his name, urging him to open his eyes. The voice pulls him back from the brink of nothingness. His eye flutters open, and his gaze falls upon an unfamiliar ceiling with fluorescent lights. Disoriented, he wonders where he is. His gaze shifts to the side, landing on a medical monitor beeping steadily. The realization dawns on him. He's in a hospital. The sight of the medical equipment confirms his location. Lying in the sterile bed, tangled in wires, he processes the impossible truth. He has returned to the real world. Before he can fully comprehend his return, a sharp cry of "Oni Ai-chan" pierces the quiet of the room. A young woman with long, light hair is at his bedside, her face a mixture of shock and relief. He flinches, startled by her sudden appearance. She leans closer, her eyes bright with unshed tears as she calls out his familiar title again, her voice filled with overwhelming emotion. Overcome with joy, she throws her arms around him in a tight embrace. He remains stiff, his expression a mask of confusion and shock, unable to process the situation or the identity of the girl clinging to him. He felt a tight, desperate grip on his hospital gown as the girl clung to him, her knuckles white with emotion. Releasing her hold, she turned and headed for the door, announcing her intention to call for a doctor. She paused, offering a small apology and explaining that she had simply been overwhelmed with happiness. As the door closed behind her, Kanzaki stared at the empty space, his mind reeling as he wondered who that woman could possibly be. His gaze swept across the sterile room, a place utterly foreign to him. The confusion solidified into a stark realization as he questioned his surroundings. He was certain of one thing. He did not. For 3.5 years, he was trapped inside the virtual reality game known as Astral Border. He had finally returned to the real world, but as he sat in the quiet room, a profound sense of unease washed over him. Something was wrong. His disorientation was compounded by the young woman who greeted him outside his home. She noted it had been a while, but then clarified that it had only been 3 days. The revelation struck him with the force of a physical blow, 3 years of his life inside the game had passed in only 3 days here. Reeling from this temporal distortion, he stood in the middle of his bedroom. It was exactly as he remembered it from 3.5 years ago. The pristine state of the room only deepened his confusion. If so much time had passed for him, what about the game itself? His gaze then fell upon the virtual reality headset resting on his bed. It was different from the one he had used to enter Astral Border. He picked up the unfamiliar device, his mind racing to connect the disparate facts. The house was the same, but the game was different, and now he inexplicably had a sister. The only logical, yet impossible, conclusion was that he was in some kind of parallel world. The weight of this possibility settled upon him. He lacked the courage to put the headset on again, not knowing what this new version of the game held. Clenching his teeth, his only thought was a desperate hope that his friends had all managed to log out safely. His troubled thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on his door. The young woman from before, the one who called herself his sister, peered into the room. She asked if he was okay, calling him Oni-chan. She explained that while he might be awake now, he had seemed very absent-minded in the taxi, and his head was likely still foggy. He turned, startled, and managed to reply that he was fine. She stepped fully into the room, her expression softening with concern as she approached him on the bed. She urged him not to force himself, reminding him that the doctor had mentioned he might experience temporary amnesia. With a pained look, she continued, recounting how 3 days ago she had come to his room to wake him up, only to find him sleeping on his desk, completely unresponsive. He listens as the girl, Ray, leans in with a bright, reassuring expression. She tells him not to worry, reminding him that he has his cute little sister to support him. She elaborates on their situation, explaining that according to their parents, who are working abroad, it is just the two of them living together. She adds that they apparently get along very well and never fight, a detail that does little to clear his confusion. He considers her words, his mind reeling from the inexplicable reality. For now, he decides he will simply have to accept the fact that he has a sibling. He acts on this decision, reaching out to gently pat her on the head with a warm smile. He thanks her for guiding him and expresses his hope that he can continue to count on her support. The unexpected affection makes her blush deeply, her expression softening with delight. Her pleasant surprise is cut short as she suddenly remembers something important. She turns back to him, flustered, exclaiming that she almost forgot she had a package for him. She presents him with a small box. Inside is a device resembling a watch, which she explains was given to all high school students. As he fastens it to his wrist, a voice resonates directly inside his mind, confirming his identity. User identification complete. Kazamine Academy Adventure Department, first year. Kanzaki Raito has been confirmed. He recognizes the device not as a watch, but as a bracer. The information floods his thoughts. He inwardly questions the terms Kazamine Academy and Adventure Department, realizing with a jolt that this must be the name of his school in this reality. Ray notices his dazed expression and asks if he is okay. He clenches his fists, bewildered. He recalls that just yesterday, he was practically bedridden. Despite the confusion, he makes a decision. On second thought, he will go. He changes into a school uniform he finds, noting with a wry laugh that while he's never worn it, the fit is perfect. Adjusting his tie and checking the bracer on his wrist, he gazes out at the city skyline, determined to investigate what kind of world this is and find any news about his friends. He stands ready to leave, his expression set with determination. His first destination is clear, the school's adventure department. Riding in a taxi, he feels a pang of guilt for not walking with his sister, Ray. He watches her wave goodbye from the sidewalk, assuring him that she's still recuperating and he shouldn't worry. Her kindness solidifies his thought that she is truly a good sister. Suddenly, the vehicle lurches. His bracer flashes to life, displaying an urgent message. A possible E-class manifestation is predicted in the area, and all civilians must evacuate immediately. He stares at the warning, startled by the sudden alert. He questions the warning appearing on his bracer, surprised that such an alert would even be broadcast inside a taxi. The driver, an older man, remarks on how unusual this is for the city, confirming the rarity of the event. The implications of the alert dawn on him with chilling certainty. A manifestation means a monster is about to appear. He grips his bracer, his mind racing to comprehend the impossible. He voices his disbelief, stating that monsters can't exist in the real world. The driver calmly contradicts him, pointing towards the sky. They do exist. Look. Following his gesture, Kanzaki sees it. A swirling, dark vortex in the sky, the very anomaly that had caught his attention earlier. The vortex crackles with dark energy, a phenomenon officially designated as a special manifestation. Elsewhere, a dark-haired girl in a school uniform watches the sky with alarm, recognizing the sign. Kanzaki realizes with horror that when this happens, a monster will appear, and he is not safely inside a game. From the heart of the swirling chaos, a monstrous, hulking figure emerges, an Orc Lord. Kanzaki instantly recognizes it as a mid-boss from the game. The driver, however, seems unconcerned, remarking that it doesn't look like a mere E-class threat and that the subjugation unit will handle it, so they should be fine as long as they keep their distance. His attention snags on the driver's words. A subjugation unit? The existence of such a group only adds another layer of mystery to this strange reality. His gaze sweeps the area below the descending monster and freezes. In a nearby park, directly in the path of the Orc Lord, are a woman and a small child, completely unaware of the danger. He urgently asks the taxi driver when a subjugation unit might arrive, but the man can only guess it will be a while. Ignoring the driver's frantic warning that it's dangerous, Kanzaki tosses money onto the seat and declares he's getting out. He throws the car door open and bolts into the street, where chaos is already unfolding. As he runs, his instincts scream for him to turn back. Yet, memories of his comrades from the game flash through his mind. He recalls Mia's plea not to see anyone die, and Soma's advice to act rather than regret inaction later. Their words solidify his resolve. He has to go. His bracer suddenly activates, displaying a system message just as it would in Astral Border. It informs him that he has entered a combat area where an Orc Lord and 2 civilians are currently fighting. A strange sensation courses through him as he sprints. He feels himself accelerating, moving faster than humanly possible. He glances down, his eyes wide with shock and confusion at his own impossible speed. He arrives at the park to a horrifying scene. The colossal Orc Lord stands upon a stone structure, and below, the small child he saw earlier screams for her mother in pure terror. The child's desperate cries echo as her mother, wounded and collapsed on the ground, weakly urges her to run and save herself. Kanzaki freezes, overwhelmed by the certainty that he cannot possibly win this fight. His hesitation is shattered when the Orc Lord roars and unleashes a shattering back fist, its massive arms swinging directly toward the helpless child. In that critical moment, his body moves on its own. He surges forward, snatching the girl from the path of destruction just as the monster's fist pulverizes the ground. Safe in his arms, the child looks up at him, calling him amazing. He processes what just happened. As he moved to intercept, the Orc Lord's attack, which should have been a blur, suddenly appeared to move in slow motion, giving him ample time to react and save the child. Standing protectively before the girl, he wonders how any of this is possible. His thoughts are interrupted by the enraged growl of the Orc Lord. He knows he needs a weapon to fight, but he is completely empty-handed, with no means to defeat the beast. He stood facing the monster when a sudden blur of motion intervened. A young woman, moving with blinding speed, unleashed a powerful sword technique against the Orc Lord. He recognized the form instantly. It was a fast strike. She turned to him, her expression urgent, and ordered him to take the child and run. He hesitated, noting her student uniform was different from his own and wondering if she was part of a subjugation unit. He quickly informed her that the girl's mother was still in danger, but the warrior dismissed his concern, confidently stating she would defeat the monster. As if to prove her words, a brilliant light enveloped her. She materialized a crystalline sword from thin air, declaring its name, Snowflower Blade. Kanzaki stared in shock, realizing with astonishment that she could use a game skill in the real world. With her weapon formed, she launched herself into the fray, shouting a promise that she would save him now. As she closed the distance, Kanzaki cried out a warning, knowing a close-range attack was far too dangerous. At that same instant, the girl's eyes widened in dawning horror. If this was the Orc Lord she knew from the game, it possessed a deadly passive skill, Unbreakable. His warning was too late. The skill activated on impact, violently repelling her. A scream tore from her throat as she was thrown backward, her body bloodied, crashing hard onto the pavement as Kanzaki watched. Helpless, she clutched her bleeding side, stunned. She had been the one attacking, yet she was the one who took damage. The Orc Lord's Unbreakable skill was a perfect countermeasure, reflecting all damage from close-range skills back onto the user. It was a notorious ability from Astral Border, designed specifically to kill players who charged in without knowing its secret. Seeing her defeated so easily, Kanzaki's mind flashed back to his own impossible feat, the burst of speed, saving the child. A new resolve hardened in his eyes. Maybe he could do something too. He made his choice. Turning to the small girl, still clutching his hand, he asked her gently if she could wait right there. She looked up at him, her expression a mixture of fear and trust. He then strode forward, directly toward the looming Orc Lord. From the ground, the injured girl pleaded with him to run, telling him her own powerful technique had failed. He didn't break his stride, acknowledging her warning with a simple, calm, yeah. He stops just a few paces from the colossal Orc Lord. The beast lets out a low, guttural growl, its massive form looming over him. Unfazed, Kanzaki simply states that he is aware of the danger. From a short distance away, Orikura Setsuri watches in stunned silence, unable to comprehend his actions. Her mind races as she recalls that despite its size, the monster is incredibly quick. She realizes with dread that if he gets that close, he'll be attacked while he's chanting. Just as she fears, the Orc Lord lunges forward, its fist glowing with power as it unleashes an explosive fist directly at Kanzaki, who is in the middle of an incantation. But the attack never connects. The Orc Lord's arm is suddenly engulfed in magical fire, the chain around its wrist melting from the intense heat of a flame rune. With his hand still outstretched, Kanzaki looks up at the beast with a confident smirk, telling the monster that it's far too slow. Facing the towering Orc Lord, Kanzaki Raito extends a hand, his expression a mask of intense focus. He declares that the monster is far too slow. He immediately follows his taunt by invoking a flame rune. A colossal pillar of fire erupts from beneath the beast, engulfing it completely as Kanzaki leaps away from the intense heat. Watching the inferno rage, a realization dawns on him. Just as he suspected, his skills from the game are functional in this world. With this power, he believes he can at least stall the creature. However, the result is far more decisive. The flames dissipate to reveal a massive, smoldering hole bored straight through the Orc Lord's torso. A notification declares its subjugation complete, leaving Kanzaki, the mother, and her child staring in utter disbelief. As the monster's body disintegrates into particles of light, Kanzaki stands motionless, contemplating the event. The power he just unleashed felt far too strong for a simple level 1 skill. His thoughts are cut short when he sees the mother lose her footing on the crumbling rooftop and begin to fall. He shouts a warning, his hand instinctively reaching out as a new energy swirls around it. He activates a feather rune, conjuring a swirling vortex of wind that gently catches the woman, slowing her descent and lowering her safely to the ground. He looks at his hand, surprised by his own fluid response. The little girl rushes to her mother's side, crying out in relief. As they embrace, the mother expresses how glad she is that they are safe. Kanzaki watches the tender reunion, a flicker of warmth in his eyes. The moment is interrupted by a voice calling out to him. He turns to find Orikura Setsuri standing nearby, her school uniform tattered and torn. With a look of disbelief, she asks if it is really him. She surveys the aftermath of the battle, her gaze settling on the injured civilians. A vortex of dark energy still churns in the sky above, but her focus is clear as she resolves to treat the wounded. Without hesitation, she invokes a heal rune. A gentle, restorative light emanates from her, bathing the area in its warm glow. The light spreads, washing over the injured. Kanzaki watches in astonishment as several people are healed simultaneously. He can't believe it. Just as his flame rune's power was enhanced, he realizes her heal rune now possesses the power to mend multiple individuals over a wide area. The pieces click into place, leading to his stunning conclusion. He understands now. His physical body in the real world has somehow inherited all the stats and abilities he possessed in Astral Border. He struggles to recall the specifics. How high were his stats? What skills was he able to use? The memories are hazy, and unlike in the game, he can't simply call up a status screen to check. He decides he'll have to wait for the memories to return on their own. For now, his priority is getting everyone to a hospital. At that moment, a sleek black limousine pulls up, and a woman in a sharp uniform steps out, her eyes wide with alarm as she calls out for a lady, Setsuri. She approaches Kanzaki, who stands near the now unconscious Setsuri. The woman introduces herself as Sakashita Yuko, an employee of the Orikura family, and expresses her profound gratitude for treating her lady. Kanzaki tells her not to mention it. Her gaze falls upon Setsuri, and she observes that there are no visible wounds, finding it hard to believe she was injured fighting the monster. Kanzaki clarifies, explaining that he has already cast healing magic on her. As she processes this, he adds that he administered the same healing to the mother and child nearby. He insists, however, that they should all be taken to a hospital for a proper examination. In response, Sakashita calmly states that she will take all three of them to their hospital. Kanzaki is taken aback, shocked by the casual mention of her family owning such a facility, a clear sign of their immense wealth. He stands beside the open door of the vehicle, where the mother he rescued expresses her profound gratitude. He humbly insists he only did what was right, as Sakashita Yuko, the chauffeur, asks him to please take care of the injured and unconscious Orikura Setsuri. As the car begins to pull away, the young girl he saved looks out the back window, calling him Oni-chan and exclaiming that he was as cool as a hero. He watches them go, with the mother's assurance that a doctor will check on him soon. He turns his attention to Sakashita Yuko, who remains behind. A bit flustered by her praise, he listens as she expresses her gladness that he seems to be a good person and voices her hope that they will meet again somewhere. Watching her finally depart, he reflects on the situation, murmuring Orikura Setsuri's name. He muses that she turned out to be a rich lady, just as he had imagined. With that thought, he vanishes from the spot in a blur of motion. His thoughts drift back to the battle, recalling Setsuri's powerful snowflower blade technique. He finds himself wishing he could have seen her impressive attack actually land a hit. This memory brings him back to the site of the conflict, where several glowing items now rest on the ground where the monster fell. He immediately recognizes them, wondering aloud if this is the drop from the Orc Lord. He forces himself to calm down, noting that this feature of monsters leaving items behind is the same as it was in the game. Deciding he should split the loot with Orikura-san, he resolves to keep it safe until they meet again and quickly gathers the items. With the items secured, his determination solidifies. He accepts that this world is different from the real world he once knew and that he must adapt. His first objective becomes clear. He needs to investigate the adventure department. Sometime later, he stands before his class at Kazumine Academy. He reintroduces himself, explaining to his fellow students that he was just discharged from the hospital that morning. His teacher, a woman in a lab coat and glasses, stands beside him with a cheerful expression. She announces how glad she is that Kanzaki-kun has recovered and asks the class to help him with any questions he might have. He walked through the academy's hallway, immediately drawing the attention of his peers. Even before he entered the classroom, he could hear them talking about him. A group of 4 students blocked his path, their faces contorted in scowls. They questioned why he had returned, labeling him the coward who had stopped attending right after enrolling. Their hostility, however, had no effect. He met their glares with a serene, almost sparkling smile. He reflected that if this were the him from before the game, he would have been intimidated enough to cry and go home. But now, his high mind stat granted him a strong resistance to status abnormalities, including social pressure. Besides, he simply didn't like it when people said whatever they wanted about him. The classroom lecture began, shifting focus to the dangers outside the academy walls. An explanation was given about this special territory, an unknown zone where monsters appear. It was the duty of the adventure department to investigate these areas, and in order to deal with the threats within, students were required to obtain more knowledge and continuously polish their skills. Following this general explanation, the teacher, a woman with glasses, turned her attention specifically to Kanzaki. She informed him that for the practical training scheduled for the next day, he would be going to that very special territory. To do so, she stressed, he needed to form a party. She then pointed out a convenient coincidence. Kurosu-san, another student, had not yet found a teammate. Seeing as they were seated next to each other, the teacher suggested they pair up. Kanzaki readily agreed, stating that he didn't mind at all. His agreement was met with derisive whispers from the rest of the class. Murmurs spread that the weakest party had just been formed. The other students commented that there's always a reason for someone to be left over, and some even expressed pity for Kurosu-san for being paired with him. Unbothered by the gossip, Kanzaki sat at his desk, confident that he would be fine no matter who his teammate was. At that moment, the girl in question, Kurosu, leaned over his desk, her presence immediately noticeable. She began to speak, stammering slightly. She formally introduced herself as Kurosu Koyomi and expressed her hope that they would work well together. Kanzaki looked at her, internally processing that this girl, cynically labeled by others as a leftover, but with breasts, was now his partner. Outwardly, he accepted, telling her he would be in her care. In the classroom, Kanzaki Raito finds himself paired with a new teammate. The girl, whose long bangs obscure her eyes, introduces herself as Kurosu Koyomi and politely asks to be in his care. Kanzaki internally processes this new partnership. He sits at his desk, silently observing her. A thought crosses his mind. It seems unbelievable that a girl with such a timid and withdrawn demeanor would be enrolled in the Academy's adventure department. Sometime later, Kanzaki and Koyomi arrive at a cafe. 2 waitresses dressed in maid outfits greet them with a cheerful, welcome, one holding a tray of drinks. Kanzaki looks around, surprised to find such an establishment on school grounds. As they sit at a table, he comments on how nice the school is. Koyomi agrees, admitting that she was also surprised at first. She elaborates on the Academy's impressive scale, explaining that the grounds are so vast they occupy half of a city and are filled with numerous facilities. Kanzaki listens, impressed, remarking that it feels more like a large town than a school. As they walk the perimeter, Koyomi points out that the entire academy is protected by powerful barriers designed to repel monsters. Kanzaki isn't surprised, chuckling as he says he had a feeling that was the case when he first saw the walls. His expression turns serious again. He understands that the school is built to train students for monster countermeasures. This realization deepens his confusion. Why would a girl who seems like she couldn't even kill an insect be here? He visualizes a potential future where she might be forced to fight against a powerful monster, a situation that could easily happen again. The thought is deeply concerning. Unable to contain his curiosity, he apologizes for being forward and asks her directly why she is in the adventure department. Koyomi becomes flustered, beginning to explain before pleading with him not to laugh. He calmly reassures her that he won't. He listened as Kurosu Koyomi, with a deep blush and fidgeting hands, confessed her motivation. She wanted to become stronger to protect her family and any beloved person she might have in the future, should something happen. She quickly, and with great embarrassment, clarified that she didn't actually have such a person yet. He considered her words, realizing that this world compelled people to seek strength. To reassure her, he admitted that he was also a loner, suggesting her inability to make friends was okay. Koyomi, however, remained downcast, lamenting that she couldn't even manage to make friends. Their quiet conversation was abruptly interrupted by a harsh voice calling out Koyomi's name from across the room. The voice belonged to an arrogant-looking male student, flanked by a girl with a high ponytail. He sneered at Koyomi, declaring that a coward like her was unfit to be in the adventure department. Koyomi flinched, recognizing him as Fuwa-kun. Kanzaki asked who they were. Koyomi explained they were classmates, Fuwa and his companion, Minamino. As Fuwa laughed and mocked Kanzaki for arriving so late, Kanzaki recalled that he had known him since junior high school. His companion, Minamino, then addressed Kanzaki directly. She advised him to disband his party while he still could, claiming Fuwa's harsh words were for his own good. She pointedly added that he was paired with a hopeless girl who couldn't do anything. Her words struck Koyomi hard. With her head bowed and hands clenched tightly in her lap, she quietly accepted their judgment, murmuring that she was just a burden and thanking them for the advice. Kanzaki cut in, his voice calm but firm. He told Fua that they didn't need his concern and that he should worry about himself instead. Unfazed, Fua smirked, stating he was looking forward to seeing the weakest team in action. As he and Minamino turned to leave, he warned Kanzaki not to come crying to him later. After they departed, Koyomi trembled, her bangs completely obscuring her face. She insisted to Kanzaki that it was impossible for them to win, explaining that Fua had been the top scorer in their class since middle school and that they stood no chance of beating his performance. She is startled by his response. Kanzaki looks at her with fierce determination, declaring that their situation is not impossible. He recalls his past, remembering all the times he accomplished things others said couldn't be done, flashing back to his old party. He believes that if they are graded on their ability to handle monsters, he is confident in their chances. His conviction reaches her. After a moment of silent contemplation, Koyomi agrees that since they are teammates, they must become stronger together. She then stands abruptly, leaning over their table with newfound resolve. Addressing him as Raito-san, she earnestly pleads for him to teach her how to fight. Accepting her plea, Kanzaki brings her to the Kazamine Academy's training hall. He observes the modern, well-equipped building, acknowledging it as a quality facility befitting a prestigious academy. He enters a private training room, a vast, white-walled space protected by barriers. While he waits for her to change, he mulls over their strategy. To become a stronger team, he concludes that he must first understand the full extent of Kurosu's abilities. She finally appears, apologizing for taking so long. Koyomi explains that none of the provided clothes fit, so she had to use her own gym attire. The tight shirt and shorts accentuate her figure even more than her uniform. She nervously asks if it looks strange. He dismisses her concern, telling her it's fine as long as she can move. He then asks what her job is. She reveals that she is a trancer, but immediately adds that she can't use her skill. He questions this, pointing out that she must have used it twice to pass the exam. Flustered, she confirms that she was able to activate her skill twice in the past, but seems unable to do so now. She recalls the only 2 times her power has ever manifested. The first was during a harrowing accident caused by the sudden appearance of monsters. The second time, it activated while she was desperately trying to help a friend in a crisis. Hearing this, Kanzaki considers a plan, acknowledging to himself that the method might be a bit rough. Koyomi, sensing his resolve, nervously wonders what she should do. He turns to her, a confident glint in his eye, and warns that his plan is going to hurt a little. Steeling herself, Koyomi agrees, promising to do her best if he is with her. With her consent, he declares his intention and places a hand over her head, casting a skill. A surge of energy envelopes Koyomi as he invokes Maximum Rune. The effect is instantaneous and overwhelming. Koyomi collapses forward, landing hard on her hands and knees as the energy dissipates. Kanzaki watches her intently, his arms crossed. He then explains his theory. Her skill is an awakening type, which only activates when specific conditions are met. He believes that at this very moment, those conditions have been fulfilled. As she catches her breath, Koyomi realizes she can feel her power stirring within her. Kanzaki confirms he used Maximum Rune to artificially drain her stamina to its limit, creating the necessary state of exhaustion. She admits that it hurts, but agrees that she can now activate her skill, pleading with him not to laugh. With a surge of determination, she overrides her limits. A brilliant flash of light erupts, and when it fades, she stands transformed. Her trancer ability has manifested, giving her the magic form, Witch Cat, complete with feline ears and a tail. She looks on in wonder, having succeeded. Inside a training facility, Kanzaki announces his attack, calling out to Kurosu before lunging toward her. With fluid grace, she easily sidesteps his charge, moving with incredible speed across the tiled floor. He watches her land, a look of admiration on his face. He thinks to himself that with such amazing speed, monsters would never be able to hit her. She turns to him, her cheeks slightly flushed, and thanks him profusely. She then explains that she can also use an offensive skill, gathering orbs of glowing energy in her palms. With a soft cry, she unleashes the attack, which manifests as 2 glowing paw prints that land gently on the floor. She notes that it felt weak, but Kanzaki reassures her that it's cute, so it's fine. He tells her that he now understands her ability. Acknowledging that she was just discharged from the hospital, he decides this is enough practice for the day, even though he enjoyed it. She quietly thanks him. As she turns, she suddenly stumbles, and Kanzaki quickly moves to support her. He observes that her transformation seems to consume her aura, which acts like magical energy, and tells her she can now release the form. A moment later, her cat-like features disappear, and she is left kneeling on the floor in her gym clothes, panting and covered in sweat. Kanzaki holds out a small, glowing orb, telling the exhausted Kurosu to drink it. She looks up, asking what it is. She takes the orb and consumes it. Instantly, a wave of energy surges through her body, causing her eyes to glow with renewed power. The exhaustion vanishes completely. She exclaims that she feels invigorated. Kanzaki explains that the item is called an aura droplet, adding nonchalantly that he just happens to know about it. She looks up at him, her expression full of admiration as she remarks on how knowledgeable he is. Internally, Kanzaki thinks that he only knows about such things because he survived a death game. He expresses his confidence to Kurosu, feeling that their practice tomorrow will go well with her as his teammate. He suggests they aim to beat Fua's score together, and she quietly agrees. With their plans set, the two walk together, leaving the school grounds as the sun begins to set and other students head home for the day. As they part ways, Kurosu turns back to thank him again for the day. Kanzaki gives a casual wave, telling her he'll see her tomorrow. He reflects on his new partnership, admitting to himself that while he was worried about her at first, he is now simply glad that she's okay. His thoughts are interrupted by a familiar voice. Kisaragi reapproaches on her bicycle, asking how his day was. She explains that she came to pick him up, and he notes her worried expression. She notices him looking at his phone, and he shows her the new contact, Kurosu Koyomi. He explains that she's his assigned teammate and a good person. Ray beams, saying she's relieved he's fitting in at school, but then quietly admits to feeling a bit jealous. She quickly changes the subject, suggesting they get some food to celebrate his recovery before going home. He agrees, and the two walk side by side down the street. Meanwhile, at her own home, Kurosu is in the shower. A voice from outside the bathroom tells her to go take a bath, and she agrees. As the water runs, she reflects on the day's events. It was the first time she had ever sweated so much during training, but she realizes it was fun. She knows that her enjoyment was entirely thanks to Kanzaki. A blush spreads across her face as she hugs herself. She wonders how much more fun it would be if she could talk to him more about things other than just their training. Her thoughts linger on Raito-san as she steps out of the bath, her hair wrapped in a towel. She glances at her phone, his contact information displayed on the screen. Meanwhile, Kanzaki stands outside under the night sky, the virtual reality headset in his hands, feeling like a relic from another life. The names of his former comrades, Soma, Mia, Iori, echo in his mind. He retreats to his room, sitting on the edge of his bed. Picking up his phone, he wonders aloud where they are, what they're doing, and if they might still be trapped in that other world. His search for answers continues as he scrolls through information, his mind racing. He questions the very nature of this new reality, desperately seeking any clue that might explain his situation. From what he has gathered, a single event seems to be the major turning point. The world corruption incident from 50 years ago. It was a cataclysm where monsters suddenly began appearing all over the world, pouring from dark vortexes into terrified cities. He lies back on his bed, processing the information. This incident, 50 years in the past, directly led to the establishment of specialized institutions like Kazamine Academy, created to train people how to fight and deal with a monster threat. But this new knowledge only deepens his personal unease. He realizes this world is not the one he knew. A chilling question forms in his mind. Is he the same person he was before the Astral Border incident, or was he replaced somewhere along the way? The more he contemplates it, the more his own existence feels vague and uncertain. His deep contemplation is shattered when the bathroom door opens. Rei emerges, wrapped only in a towel, announcing she's finished her bath. Startled, Kanzaki asks why she came out like that. She casually dismisses his concern, noting that even as siblings, it's a bit much, before lifting her towel slightly to show him she's wearing panties. She insists it's fine since they're family, but her attention is quickly captured by the gaming device in his hands. With a cry of excitement, she declares that she wants to play too, getting overly energetic and close. Her excitement culminates in her climbing onto the bed and straddling his lap. She apologizes meekly, explaining that she just can't help it because he's finally back. Kanzaki can only stare, taken aback by her sudden and intense display of affection. His spiraling thoughts were interrupted by the vibration of his phone. A new message had arrived, a notification from Kurosu Koyomi. He looked down at the screen, reading Koyomi's words. She thanked him for his hard work, noted how quickly time passed, and expressed her genuine gladness at being teamed up with him for the next day's practice. The simple, earnest message prompted him to reflect on the current me. He recalled Koyomi's earlier words to him, addressing him as Raito-san. Just knowing that his existence was being approved by someone else, acknowledged as real, was a powerful anchor. In his mind's eye, her earnest face stood in stark contrast to the confused expression of Rei, who sat beside him. The realization solidified within him, cutting through the fog of doubt. That simple acknowledgement was enough. He was himself. I am me, he affirmed internally, a quiet strength returning to his expression as he placed a hand over his heart. With renewed purpose, he began to type a reply. He thanked her for her hard work and promised to do his best, ensuring they would succeed together. For the time being, for the sake of his friend, he would give his all to the training ahead. Inside the academy locker room, female students prepare for the upcoming practice session, changing into their gear amidst the metallic clang of lockers. Among them, Kurosu Koyomi clutches her uniform, her thoughts fixed on her first practice with Raito. A quiet determination settles over her as she vows to do her absolute best. Having finished, she steps out to meet Kanzaki, now clad in the sleek beginner's armor. She asks for his opinion on her appearance, and he confirms it looks good on her. Now, wearing matching outfits, they descend a staircase together, ready for what's to come. He walks beside her, reflecting that he'd expected her to be nervous but is glad she seems composed. His thoughts are cut short by a condescending voice from behind, calling him a chicken bastard. The insult comes from Fuwa, who stands on the stairs above them with Minamino. He smirks, reminding Kanzaki of his previous declaration to beat them in practice. Minamino adds to the taunt, telling Kurosu to make sure her partner doesn't fail. Fuwa declares aggressively that they intend to go all out. Kurosu's face falls into shadow, her expression hidden. Her resolve, however, does not waver. She looks up at Kanzaki, her visible eyes shining with conviction, and states firmly that they will work together so that they both pass. Provoked by their unity, Fuwa confronts Kanzaki directly. He shouts that whatever Kanzaki might have said to Kurosu is irrelevant. He will prove that he is the superior one. Kanzaki meets his glare, calmly stating that he's looking forward to it. After the tense exchange, Kanzaki praises Kurosu for speaking her mind without fear. Kneeling, she explains her true motive. She wants to make them understand, by winning, that rejecting people's true selves is wrong. Kanzaki readily agrees. Later, in a classroom, a teacher stands before the assembled students to deliver a final notice before the practice. She reveals a sobering statistic. The expected passing rate for this year's first session is a mere 5%. Only one pair is projected to succeed. Before the practice could officially begin, Fuwa and Minamino confronted Kanzaki and Kurosu. Fuwa confidently declared that his pair would be the one to pass on the first try, dismissing any other possibility. Kanzaki remained seated, his expression hardening at the challenge. Their standoff was cut short by the teacher's voice ringing out across the classroom. Holding up a stopwatch, she instructed all students to meet at the north ground within 5 minutes. With a sharp begin, she sent the students into a frenzy. They scrambled from their seats, realizing the first test was a race, not combat. The north ground was at least a kilometer away, a distance many considered impossible to cover in the allotted time. As the classroom emptied in a rush of frantic footsteps, the teacher stood calmly at her desk, a slight, knowing smile on her face as she watched the chaos she had unleashed. Amidst the commotion, Kurosu frantically tried to get her partner's attention, urging Raito-san to hurry. He, however, remained seated, calmly asking if she was certain they could afford to take their time. He then stood and addressed the teacher directly, asking if they were free to use anything at their disposal. The teacher confirmed his assumption, which sparked a realization in Kanzaki. The faculty was aware of his abilities. With this knowledge, he concluded there was no reason to hold back. His calm demeanor did little to soothe Kurosu's anxiety. She insisted they needed to hurry, but Kanzaki simply told her not to worry. He looked at her with unwavering confidence and asked for her trust. After a moment of hesitation, her cheeks flushing slightly, she agreed. Without another word, he asked if they should go, then swiftly lifted her into his arms. Her gasp was lost as he took a running start not towards the door, but directly towards the classroom window. With a determined expression, he leaped, shattering the glass and plunging them into the open air. The fall was surprisingly brief. He landed with practiced ease, a swirl of dust and energy cushioning their impact. Still carrying Kurosu, he immediately broke into a sprint across the school grounds. He activates a speed rune, accelerating their descent as he carries Kurosu through the air. Flustered by the sudden closeness, she stammers his name and admits that the situation is rather embarrassing as she lets out a small shriek. He maintains a determined expression, focused solely on their objective. Kurosu, however, looks up at him with wide, sparkling eyes, her initial embarrassment giving way to a new realization. This is incredibly fun. Their rapid descent allows them to quickly overtake their classmates on the ground below. Minamino shouts to Fuwa in alarm, pointing out that they've just been passed. Fuwa can only stare in disbelief and anger. Now running on foot after safe landing, he apologizes to Kurosu for acting so suddenly without warning. She reassures him that it's fine and tells him it's okay to run slowly, though her flushed expression suggests she enjoyed the speed. She beams, admitting with a genuine smile that it's the first time she has ever felt so excited. At the designated training grounds, the female teacher with glasses observes as the other students arrive, many of them collapsing onto the ground, panting with exhaustion. The teacher turns as Kanzaki and Kurosu arrive, looking far less tired than their peers. Noting their quick arrival and that the last-place team has been decided, she officially congratulates the pair for securing first place. Kneeling on the ground nearby, Fuwa stares at the winners with a look of utter disbelief, unable to comprehend how the team he considered the weakest managed to win. With the race concluded, the teacher gathers the students. She announces that they will now proceed into the forested area ahead, which is designated as a special territory. Kurosu looks toward the entrance with a pensive expression. He turns to Kurosu, stating that the real test is finally beginning and that they should brace themselves. Clenching her fists with a nervous tremor, she stammers out her agreement. He looked ahead with grim determination, understanding that the race was merely a prelude. The real practice, he knew, had only just begun. As he steeled himself, Fuwa approached from behind, calling his name. The rival student dismissed what had just happened as a mere warm-up, accusing Kanzaki of using some convenient skill to secure his victory and vowing that his own team would win the next contest. Unfazed, Kanzaki simply replied that he was looking forward to it. Their exchange was cut short as the teacher leading the group came to a halt, announcing their arrival. Fuwa shot Kanzaki a final, condescending look, muttering a promise that, unlike Kanzaki and his partner, he would be sure to surprise everyone. He then lifted his gaze to behold their destination. Before them stretched a vast, otherworldly landscape under a perpetually starry sky, dotted with jagged rock formations and strange, floating crystalline objects. Kanzaki stared in disbelief, realizing this was the special territory, a place of such scale and strangeness that it seemed impossible to exist within the confines of an academy. The students find themselves in a vast, cavernous landscape under a starlit ceiling. A place they learn is the special territory. The sheer scale of the environment prompts one student to question how such a place could exist within the academy. Suddenly, a man with light hair and sunglasses appears before them, his presence commanding attention. As Kanzaki wonders about the newcomer's identity, Koyomi recognizes him. He addresses the assembled students, outlining their objective. A card is hidden somewhere within the territory, and their mission is to find it and return. Following his introduction, a female teacher with glasses provides more details. She explains that the territory is as large as a town district and will contain monsters, instructing the students to rely on their own judgment during the training. The male teacher, addressed as Hajime-sensei, laughs off the tension, claiming he didn't mean to frighten them. The female teacher then explains a safety measure. Each student has a device called auto-reject that will forcibly extract them if they are in mortal danger. She warns that if one person is pulled out, their partner will be as well. This information prompts Koyomi to apologize to Kanzaki in advance, should she be the one to get pulled out. He quickly reassures her, promising his protection. Elsewhere, another student asks about the consequences of the device activating, and the teacher confirms it means they fail the training. The vagueness of the mission causes unrest. Minamino voices the group's frustration, complaining about the lack of information regarding the card's nature and the vastness of the search area. She theorizes that if only one pair is meant to pass, there might only be a single card to find. Hajime-sensei offers no further clarification, stating that is all the information they will receive. He tells them to think for themselves and deal with monsters as they see fit, reminding them that adventuring involves risk. The words weigh heavily on Kanzaki, who realizes with dread that he has never fought a monster and still lacks a proper weapon. His internal struggle is interrupted by the female teacher, whose expression becomes severe. She declares that the fundamental mission of the Adventure Department is to survive in such unreasonable environments and return with vital information. She then presents them with an ultimatum. If they dislike these conditions, they can transfer to a regular department or leave the academy. With a slight smile, she adds that the subjugation department is cooperating to ensure their safety and wishes them the best of luck. As the training exercise commences, Fuwa crackles with lightning energy, declaring he has the rule and is ready to begin. His partner, Minamino, agrees that he can't wait any longer. From a short distance, Kanzaki observes them, identifying the lightning attribute as the source of Fuwa's immense confidence and noting their bold claim to be the ones who will pass this first trial. He turns to his own partner, Koyomi, with a look of determination. "Let's do this, Kurosu-san," he says, offering encouragement. She clenches her small fists, nervously agreeing that they will not lose. Meanwhile, observing the students from a distance, the instructors confirm the training's half-day time limit. The female teacher asks Hajime-sensei if he is trying to scout more students for the subjugation unit. He admits that he is, explaining his need to find talented individuals early, though their studies remain the priority. He concludes by stating he can already see one promising student. Deep within the desolate, rocky territory, Koyomi expresses her concern to Kanzaki, questioning if they can afford to walk so slowly. She explains that everyone else is rushing because they believe there is only one card to find. Kanzaki appears unbothered by the news. He calmly reasons that if there were truly only one card, the teacher would have specified that only a single pair could pass. Furthermore, he points out that the area is simply too vast to search physically, implying there must be another method to find their objective. As he scans the jagged peaks surrounding them, a startling realization dawns on him. This special territory looks exactly the same as the beginner's area from the game Astral Border. He considers the implication. If the terrain is identical, then the monsters that appear here will be as well. Before he can complete the thought, Koyomi urgently calls his name, pointing ahead in alarm. Her warning directs their attention to another pair of students engaged in combat with a massive rock slime. One of the students, a young man, charges forward, unleashing a powerful skill as he shouts, "Flame Blade." The fiery attack strikes the creature, but to the student's horror, it has no effect. Instead of being damaged, the rock slime begins to swell, growing even larger and more menacing. The enormous monster lets out a deafening roar and lunges, overwhelming the female student. A bright light envelopes her as the system announces in auto-reject, signaling her team's failure. Kanzaki and Koyomi can only watch, stunned by the swift defeat. He places a reassuring hand on Koyomi's shoulder as she panics, questioning what they could possibly do against such a monster. He tells her to calm down, and his touch seems to have an immediate, soothing effect on her. Just as she begins to compose herself, another rock slime materializes directly behind them. Without missing a beat, he instructs her to use Transform. Flustered but trusting, she agrees. In a swirl of energy, Koyomi's appearance shifts dramatically. Her long, obscuring bangs recede, revealing her face and expressive eyes for the first time. She is now clad in a sleek bodysuit, complete with feline ears and a tail. She immediately launches herself at the creature. Kanzaki realizes that as long as they take the proper measures, they can win, since attributed attacks are useless. Koyomi's strike is absorbed, and she lands, asking how they are meant to defeat a monster with such high offensive power. The rock slime swells with anger. Kanzaki calmly explains the monster's simple nature. They only attack in a straight line and think only of eating. He lays out his plan, telling Koyomi to let it consume as much as it wants before they use an enchant rune to make it full. He elaborates that since all attributes are ineffective, the best course of action is to use a slow rune. As he speaks, magical energy gathers in his hand and flows into Koyomi's weapon. He tells her to use the opportunity created by the slowing effect to attack it. With her weapon now glowing, she leaps into the air and unleashes a powerful null attribute attack. The blow connects with devastating force. Kanzaki gives a confident thumbs up, praising her excellent execution as the first result of their special training. With the rock slime defeated, Kurosu celebrates their victory, exclaiming that she defeated it. She quickly corrects herself, acknowledging that it was all thanks to Kanzaki. As a notification confirms, she gained 10 experience points and a slime cube. Kanzaki turns his attention to their next objective, stating that it's time to find the card. Their search is immediately cut short. Kurosu's eyes widen as she spots a new threat descending from the sky. A small, winged demon wielding a trident. She urgently calls out to Kanzaki, warning him of a new monster. He remains calm, his expression hardening with recognition. He identifies the creature as a little imp, a monster he remembers from the game Astral Border. The realization dawns on him. If this world operates exactly like the game, he knows what to expect. As two imps dart towards Kurosu with blinding speed, Kanzaki shouts instructions. He warns her not to be fooled by their velocity and tells her the key to dodging their attack is to crouch the moment they raise their weapons. Despite his warning, one of the creatures closes in, prompting a cry of alarm from Kurosu. Kanzaki draws his sword, ready to act, but hesitates for a fraction of a second, concerned that using too much force might startle his new partner. He makes his move, striking the ground just in front of the charging imp. The impact shatters the rock, creating a screen of dust and debris that halts the monster's assault. The creature is dispatched, and Kanzaki gains another 10 experience points. He apologizes, thinking he must have shocked her. Kurosu, however, is beaming with admiration. She thanks him effusively, remarking on how amazing it is that he has such high firepower despite having a support job. Internally, Kanzaki simply notes that she is a bit odd. As they continue through the desolate, star-dusted landscape, a brilliant pillar of light erupts in the distance. Kanzaki observes it dispassionately, identifying it as an auto-reject, a signal that another participant has been forcibly removed from the trial. The sight prompts him to consider their chances. He wonders aloud how many pairs are left in this wide, monster-infested area. Activating a skill, life force detection, he scans their surroundings and reports that only 3 or 4 pairs remain. Kurosu is shocked by how few are left. His scan reveals more immediate threats. Suddenly, another rock slime erupts from the ground as a little imp swoops down, ambushing them from 2 sides. As he braced for the fight, Kurosu surged past him, her whip-like weapon trailing behind. She declared with fierce determination that they would pass this training session with a higher grade than Fua's team, vowing to do her best. He watched her charge, his expression hardening as he analyzed the situation. He knew one thing for certain. With monsters like the rock slime and little imp, it would be difficult to win without knowing how to properly deal with them. Worse, there wasn't enough time to search the entire area. While he strategized, Kurosu was already in motion, realizing that the combat itself must be the goal of the training. Elsewhere, from a high vantage point, Hajime-sensei observed the battle through binoculars, chuckling to himself. He remarked on how interesting the training was, prompting his female colleague to remind him that he was the one who designed it. He noted that only 2 pairs remained, acknowledging the trial's difficulty. His colleague then asked him a direct question. Where did he hide the card? He simply turned away with a cryptic smile, stating that it was a secret. Back on the battlefield, Kanzaki's focus sharpened on a specific detail amidst the chaos. He was certain that Kurosu had most likely noticed it as well. The female teacher reacted with shock to some new information, asking how many cards there were. Hajime-sensei calmly revealed that there was only 1. Their plan unfolded perfectly. Kurosu swept through the horde of monsters, her weapon a blur, dispatching multiple foes in a single, fluid motion as notifications confirmed their gains and experience. He watched her success with a confident smirk, thinking to himself that it all went according to plan. He was impressed, noting how much more sophisticated her movements had become. With a final, powerful strike, she shattered the last remaining rock slime, declaring its end. After the battle concluded, she turned to him, her expression thoughtful. She remarked that the last one felt different from the other monsters they had defeated so far. He met her gaze, confirming her suspicion. As I thought, he and his partner stand on a precipice, gazing at a brilliant orb of light nestled between two jagged rock formations. Within the glow, crystalline shapes shimmer, and he identifies their objective, the card. He explains his theory to an amazed Kurosu, stating that this discovery is one of the answers to the training's puzzle. He elaborates that by defeating certain monsters repeatedly, their dropped items might change, eventually leading to this prize. Kurosu expresses her admiration for his insight. Meanwhile, observing from a distance, Hajime-sensei and his colleague watch their progress. The female teacher remarks that the Kanzaki-Kurosu pair might be the first to clear the training. Hajime-sensei remains silent, a thoughtful expression on his face. He exhales a puff of smoke, his sunglasses hiding his eyes as he declares with a hint of disappointment that, unfortunately for them, it is already over. Back in the cavern, Kurosu holds the glowing card, believing that bringing it back will be enough to clear the training. She notices Kanzaki's hesitation and asks him what is wrong, but he only agrees with her assessment with a lingering note of uncertainty. His brow furrows in concentration as he examines the card. He voices his doubt, questioning whether their score for finding this card will truly be higher than that of Fua's team. He considers the possibility that their card is not the only one. He reasons that the other remaining pair, most likely Fua's team, might find a card that is worth more. He turns to Kurosu, noting that they still have time and asking for her thoughts. She looks down, her expression troubled as she recalls Fua and Minamino's arrogant behavior and their boastful claims from the first day. Her resolve hardens. She tells Kanzaki she wants to find out more about what Fua's team is doing. He clenches his fist in agreement, stating that he was thinking the exact same thing. Kurosu thanks him, a slight blush on her cheeks, admitting that the situation feels a bit strange. Kanzaki turns away, heading toward a heal rune on the ground, and advises her that they should always be fully prepared, as they do not know what might happen next. He and Kurosu watch from their hiding spot, a sense of unease growing within him. Nearby, their instructor, Hajime-sensei, adjusted his tie, remarking with amusement that he hadn't anticipated getting to see more of the other students' abilities. He found the development quite interesting. A smirk played on the instructor's lips as he considered the unfolding events. He mused to himself that things were about to become even more entertaining. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Fua and Minamino struggled against a swarm of small, resilient, slime-like creatures. Fua yelled in frustration, demanding to know why his attacks had no effect. Minamino shouted back, telling him to get a grip, but his attention was suddenly captured by the monster's strange behavior. He stared bewildered, asking what they were doing. Before their eyes, the smaller creatures began to coalesce, their bodies flowing together into a single, massive form. A hulking monster of rock and slime rose up, and Fua could only stare in disbelief as the realization struck him. They had fused. As Kanzaki Raido and Kurosu Koyomi run through the rocky terrain, a brilliant flash of light erupts in the distance. Koyomi points it out, noting that it came from the direction of Fua's group. With a grim expression, Kanzaki admits he has a bad feeling about the situation. The source of the light is a massive, monstrous golem. Minamino desperately tells Fua they can't possibly win, but he angrily shouts for her to shut up. As Kanzaki and Koyomi arrive, she identifies the creature as a rock golem, explaining that it's the result of several rock slimes using a fusion skill. The golem lets out a deep, guttural roar. He instantly assesses the new threat, realizing with alarm that its power and defense far surpass even those of the Orc Lord he had previously fought. The rock golem slams its massive fist into the ground, forcing Fua and Minamino to leap back to avoid being crushed. Minamino expresses her shock, unable to believe such a powerful monster would appear in the special territory. Observing from a safe distance, the female teacher with glasses notes the dire situation. She tells Hajime-sensei that they need to contact the subjugation department for help, but he calmly questions her certainty. He continues with a confident smirk, warning her that if she calls for help, the students will all fail their assessment. He reassures her not to worry, explaining that the subjugation department is on standby, but the students have an auto-reject function enabled. With a wave of his hand, he declares that they should simply watch. His colleague looks on, her expression filled with doubt. On the battlefield, the rock golem continues its relentless advance across the desolate landscape. Minamino remarks on how strange it is for such a thing to happen during their very first training session. Enraged, Fua demands to know why everyone is trying to hinder him. As his axe begins to glow with power, Minamino shouts a warning, telling him not to use an attributed attack. From a distance, Koyomi calmly advises that the monster can only be defeated with a null attribute attack. Startled by her appearance, Fua asks who she is before angrily telling her not to order him around. Kanzaki's other companion remarks that Koyomi's advice seems unwelcome, but Kanzaki himself remains silent, thoughtfully observing the unfolding confrontation. He calmly offers a truce, suggesting they could defeat the golem together. But if Fua insists on going alone, he will let him go first. Fua snarls, calling him a bastard and rejecting the offer, proclaiming they will defeat it on their own. With a powerful leap, he charges forward, causing his teammate Minamino to cry out that his plan is impossible. Kanzaki watches the reckless advance in silence. As he rushes toward the monster, Minamino pleads with him not to be stubborn, but Fua shouts back that Kanzaki's group should have stayed quiet in the classroom. The confrontation triggers a memory from Minamino, taking her back to a training camp in junior high. She recalls that if Kanzaki hadn't interfered that night, things might have been different. Remembering the moment, they decided to pause the search for someone named Mitsuki. In her memory, the search for a student lost in the mountains was deemed too dangerous to continue at night. However, a younger Fua, confident that he had already awakened his skill, declared his intent to become the hero of the class. The other students, swayed by his confidence, agreed to follow his lead. The memory then shows him carrying an exhausted girl with cat ear accessories on his back through the dark woods. As he carried her, the girl, Mitsuki, suddenly announced that she had found who they were looking for, a triumphant moment for Fua. But that triumph was short-lived. Fua bitterly recalls how his moment was stolen by the appearance of Kurosu Koyomi, the plainest girl in class. She had approached Mitsuki, asking if she was okay and questioning her strange attire. For Fua, this intervention marked the end of his reign. He clenches his fist, the memory still sharp. That was the first time he had ever felt true defeat. This long-held resentment fuels his present actions. He roars that he will never acknowledge Kanzaki's strength, screaming that he is stronger and warning them not to get in his way. Minamino cries out for him to stop, but it's too late. Kanzaki's expression hardens with understanding. This grudge is the reason Fua has been tormenting Koyomi. Ignoring everyone, Fua leaps and unleashes his ultimate attack, Thunder Smash, upon the rock golem. Kanzaki watches, conceding that Fua is indeed skilled, but simultaneously shouts a desperate warning for him to get away, knowing the golem will reflect the attack. His warning comes too late. The golem's body flashes as the reflection ability activates, sending the full force of the Thunder Smash hurtling back at its caster. Fua is engulfed by his own power, his body thrown back by the violent impact. Minamino stares, amazed that Fua managed to endure the reflected blow. Kanzaki observes the outcome grimly. Fua, smoking and battered, grits his teeth in disbelief, unable to accept that he could lose. Nearby, his other teammates, a boy and a girl, stand within a protective barrier, the girl exclaiming in surprise that she was protected as well. He watched as the rock golem, having dispatched Fua, began to lumber towards their position. Minamino voiced her concern, but Kanzaki dismissed it, stating that Fua had the guts to be fine. As Koyomi cried out that the golem was approaching, Kanzaki remarked that while he didn't enjoy seeing a classmate beaten, he didn't believe they needed to fight it. Changing his mind, he turned to Koyomi with sudden resolve, declaring that they would defeat the monster together and promising to protect her. The proposition stunned Koyomi, who clutched her outfit in a moment of self-doubt. She wondered internally if she could truly be of any help with her current power, especially against a foe that Fua couldn't defeat. Sensing her unspoken doubt, he answered with complete certainty, assuring her, "Of course." His confidence caught her by surprise, leaving her momentarily speechless. He then smiled, proposing they defeat it using a method that only a coordinated party could achieve. His faith in her seemed to dispel her worries, and with renewed determination, she agreed. As they prepared to engage, two spheres of shimmering light enveloped the fallen Fua and the nearby Minamino, lifting them from the battlefield. The light deposited them safely on the school's sports grounds among other students. A disoriented Minamino asked where they were, and a calm voice belonging to a girl with long, light-toned hair informed her that they were safe. While Minamino expressed concern for Fua, he remained on his hands and knees, trembling with humiliation. He muttered Koyomi's name, questioning why she was with Kanzaki. Nearby, the girl, identified as being from the subjugation department, watched them. His frustration finally erupted as he slammed a fist into the ground, cursing Kanzaki Raito's name. The outburst immediately caught the blonde girl's attention. Her calm expression shifted to one of shock as she recognized the name. A long-haired blonde student watches the training grounds, her gaze fixed on a single figure. Kanzaki Raito pants, bent over in exhaustion. She murmurs his name, confirming to herself that, just as she thought, he is here. Her presence, along with her two companions, does not go unnoticed. Onlookers identify them as the top 3 students from the subjugation department. The blonde student remarks to her companions that she is surprised they would agree to cooperate in the training. Noticing her distracted gaze, her dark-haired aide addresses her as my lady and asks if something is troubling her. The blonde student clears her throat, attempting to deflect by commenting that it is the first time she has ever seen someone so utterly exhausted in a training session. Her aide, however, presses the matter, asking directly if her concern is for Kanzaki. The pointed question catches the blonde student off guard, and a faint blush colors her cheeks as her composure wavers. As they walk, she stumbles over a large rock, quickly apologizing for her mistake. Her two companions exchange a look. The male student with glasses observes that she's been acting strangely ever since returning from the previous manifestation, a sentiment with which the female, aids silently agrees. Her attention shifts to another student, Fiwa, who is on his hands and knees in a state of shock. She asks what happened, and Minamino explains that the slimes they were fighting suddenly fused, creating a uniquely powerful monster. The blonde student then inquires if any other students were nearby. Minamino confirms that two others were present, the Kanzaki and Kurosa pair. The mention of his name triggers a powerful memory for the blonde student, her eyes widening as she recalls the moment. I found him, Kanzaki Raito. Her mind flashes back to that fateful day when a massive manifestation tore through the city, a swirling vortex of dark energy looming over the skyline. She remembers arriving to subjugate the Orc Lord on her own, even before the official unit. It was a reflection of her entire life. Since childhood, she had always been number one, an undefeated swordsman in every academy she attended. Yet, that streak of victories came to a brutal end. She recalls the Orc Lord striking her down. It wasn't arrogance, she thinks, but she had been carried away, believing she could defeat any opponent. The harsh reality of her loss left her deeply disappointed in herself. She recalls the moment with startling clarity, a brilliant explosion, and Kanzaki Raito standing firm against the chaos. In that instant, a profound realization washed over her. He had saved her. This memory fuels her present determination. She reflects on her desire to understand the feelings she experienced then and to learn more about him. Snapping back to the present, she addresses her aides, Sakashita and Karasawa, declaring an emergency. When Sakashita points out that the teachers haven't requested their intervention, she dismisses the protocol, stating that she will make her own judgment. They will enter the special territory to save the students. With her mind made up, she steels herself, convinced that meeting him again might provide the answer she seeks. She gives the final command, "Let's go." At her word, she and her two aides stride forward, passing through a swirling dimensional gate and into the special territory. Upon arriving in the desolate landscape, her male aide immediately questions if this was her true purpose. Sakashita reminds her that she had agreed to cooperate with the training exercise, prompting a loud, flustered denial from their mistress. Dropping all pretense, she blurts out that it is definitely not for the training. With a blush, she confesses her real reason. She wants to meet Kanzaki-kun. Her two aides are struck silent by the candid admission. Sakashita quickly attempts to provide a cover story, reminding her mistress that she thought they were cooperating due to the potential appearance of a unique monster. Playing along, the blonde swordswoman quickly agrees, remarking that Sakashita knows her well. Despite her outward composure, she internally chastises herself for her outburst. Her aides observe her with amusement. Sakashita thinks she's cute, while the other wonders what Kanzaki is like. Elsewhere in that same territory, Kanzaki Raito himself stands ready for battle against a hulking rock golem. He stands with Mitsuki and another teammate as the golem rears back its massive arm. With a roar, the monster smashes the ground, unleashing its earth fist technique and sending jagged shards of rock flying towards them. As Mitsuki cries out in alarm, Kanzaki calmly extends a hand. A shield rune manifests in the air, a translucent, hexagonal barrier that effortlessly repels the rocky projectiles. Mitsuki stares in awe at the display of power. He calmly issues orders, telling Kurosa-san to move behind the golem and prepare her assault. He explains that staying in front of the creature invites an attack that is difficult to evade. Mitsuki, however, voices her uncertainty, believing her own attack will be insufficient. With a confident smile, he assures her not to worry, as he has already made the necessary preparations. His plan is twofold. He wants Kurosa-san to land the final blow and gain experience. That, he thinks to himself, is one of the reasons for this strategy. But there is another purpose to his actions. He has something specific he needs to confirm. As the rock golem looms, his defensive rune shimmers into existence before him. Understanding his intent, Mitsuki leaps back to a safe distance. He stands firm, sword held ready, and calls out to the monster, declaring himself its target. The golem takes the bait, lumbering forward. Mitsuki cries out in alarm, questioning why he isn't using his magic. Unfazed, he simply states that this is fine, his gaze locked on the approaching rock golem. With a tremendous crash, the creature's stone fist slams down. Mitsuki screams his name, her eyes wide with shock and fear. But as the dust settles, he is revealed, not only unharmed but effortlessly stopping the colossal fist with a single hand, which now crackles with a dark, powerful energy. He observes his own power with a grim focus. The thought that a rune caster's physical attack could be this effective confirms it for him. His level has indeed increased significantly. Seizing the opportunity, he shouts for Kurosa-san to strike now with her black hand. Mitsuki looks on, bewildered, questioning the command to use an attribute attack that the golem should simply absorb. Facing the colossal rock golem, Kanzaki shouts a command to his companion, Mitsuki. He instructs her to strike the creature with her black hand ability. With a determined expression, she accepts the order. In response, she raises her arm high, chanting an incantation to summon power from the darkness. As ethereal chains swirl around her, she calls forth the hand of the devil, manifesting shadowy, claw-like constructs from thin air. Kanzaki watches her preparation with a look of quiet approval, murmuring, "Good girl." Bolstered by his confidence, Mitsuki steels her resolve, thinking to herself that she will believe in Raito. The current battle triggers a vivid memory for him, transporting him back to his days in the game. He recalls the first time his party defeated a rock golem, feeling a wave of nostalgia as he remembers how differently he acted back then. In the flashback, his party's tank, Soma, struggles to hold the golem's attention. The knight shouts in frustration that the creature is too tough and his sword can't draw its aggression. He warns that if he fails to taunt it, they will all be wiped out. The monstrous golem lets out a deafening roar, its single eye glowing with malice. The party is at a loss, desperately wondering what they should do next. At that critical moment, Mia stepped forward, declaring that she would be the one to draw its attention. Soma and Ruri reacted with shock, questioning her plans since she could only use null attribute offensive magic. Mia ignored them, turning to Kanzaki and asking him to perform that specific action once she had the monster's focus, placing her complete faith in him. He reflects on those days spent fighting with his friends. It was because of them, because of the people who believed in him, that he was able to obtain his power. Drawing on this conviction in the present, Kanzaki's focus sharpens as he prepares to cast a spell, his hand glowing as he invokes Enchant Rune. His hands now radiate with magical light. He knows the next step is to do what Mia had asked him back then. As Mitsuki watches the display, she wonders if this will increase the power of darkness. With a roar, Kanzaki unleashes his next skill, Charge Rune. A torrent of dark energy erupts and surges directly towards Mitsuki. The energy envelopes Mitsuki, who gasps as she feels its intense heat. Kanzaki shouts encouragement, telling her to hang in there. The Charge Rune is a unique form of magic that enhances an ally's spell by consuming the caster's own aura points, significantly boosting their attack power. He focuses his energy, apologizing to Kurosu-san as he explains this is also a test to see how many aura points he possesses. With grim determination, he declares his intent to transfer all of his power to his ally, pushing more and more energy forward as he realizes he still has a vast reserve. The immense surge of power overwhelms Mitsuki, who cries out that she can't handle it. Ignoring her plea, Kanzaki roars for her to fire the attack at the waiting rock golem. Steeling herself, she complies, unleashing the supercharged spell. A massive blast of dark energy, shaped like a cat's paw, hurtles directly toward the monster. The impact is cataclysmic. A blinding column of light erupts from the point of contact, completely obliterating the rock golem and shattering the very ground it stood upon. In the aftermath, as a glowing paw print sigil hangs in the air, Kanzaki silently observes the result. Mitsuki, breathless, confirms their success. A system message appears, announcing that the rank E unique monster has been subjugated and they have now earned the qualification for D-class subjugations. He clenches his fist, surprised that he still has so many aura points left and wondering just how strong he has become. His thoughts are interrupted by Mitsuki calling his name, but Kurosu interjects, asking why darkness magic worked when she thought it would be ineffective. In response, Mitsuki begins to explain the mechanics of her skill. She confirms that Black Hand does have a dark attribute, but clarifies that it actually possesses two attributes at once, dark and null. Kurosu questions this, wondering if the attack wouldn't still be absorbed. She illustrates her point with a diagram. The rock golem did absorb the dark attribute of the attack, but in doing so, it took fatal damage from the null attribute, which it could not resist. Kanzaki listens, understanding the strategy's success. Just as the debrief concludes, Mitsuki gasps, spotting something gleaming amidst the rubble left by the golem. She quickly calls Kanzaki's attention to it. Following her gaze, they find a card lying on the rocky ground. As Kanzaki picks it up, he realizes with a start that it's a valuable item, prompting a shocked reaction from Mitsuki. He checks on Mitsuki, asking if she is alright. She, in turn, expresses her astonishment that such a valuable item card dropped during a mere training session. She explains that even when hunting many unique monsters, the chance of such a drop is incredibly low, though the drop rates are still normal for training monsters. As they discuss the rare find, a new group appears on the ridge above them. The blonde swordswoman leading them announces that she heard a unique monster had appeared in the area. Mitsuki immediately recognizes the newcomers as members of the subjugation department and identifies the leader as a member of the prestigious Orikura family. The group looks down into the massive crater, the aftermath of the battle. The blonde swordswoman remarks that the crater itself is proof of the monster's existence and seems surprised to learn that Kanzaki and Mitsuki were the ones who defeated it. Down in the crater, Kanzaki helps Mitsuki to her feet, thanking her for her help. Her gaze sharpens as she questions if the two of them truly managed the feat alone. Kanzaki confirms that they worked together to defeat it, though he modestly insists that he didn't do much and that everything was thanks to Mitsuki. Hearing this, the blonde swordswoman becomes visibly flustered, her composure breaking slightly. She steps forward, stammering that she has something she needs to say to him. a thank you she must deliver. He responds with a gentle smile, telling her simply that he is glad she is okay, formally addressing her as Orikura-san. His kind words cause her to blush deeply, her hands fidgeting with the hilt of her sword. She finally manages to thank him for saving her during a previous encounter. He turns to walk away, replying casually that the pleasure was all his. As he and Orikura part, Mitsuki watches their exchange from a short distance, her expression thoughtful and silent. As a shimmering portal closes behind her, the female teacher in the lab coat steps forward. The students, including a watchful Kenzaki Raito, gather around as she smiles and announces that their practical training is now over. She notes that everyone seems to have failed, but then corrects herself with a raised finger. In fact, she clarifies, one pair did manage to clear the test. The news sends a shockwave through the other students. Fuwa, looking worn from the effort, expresses his disbelief that even his pair couldn't make it, while another student demands to know who succeeded. Responding to the commotion, Hajime-sensei steps forward with a flourish. He calls for a round of applause, announcing that they will welcome the only ones who found a card. He gestures toward the triumphant pair, Kanzaki Raito and Kurosu Koyomi, who stand together with composed expressions amidst the surrounding astonishment. He turns to his partner, telling her to stand proud. He commends her for understanding the goal and producing results that exceeded all expectations. Flustered, Kurosu quietly agrees. Watching from a distance, Orikura and her two companions observe the outcome. She wonders aloud if Kanzaki and Kurosu's reputations are truly so low, implying that their victory is a surprise to the rest of the class. Hajime-sensei then addresses the entire group, explaining the conditions of the test. He reveals that the monster they faced was rank G, a level above the lowest rank, H, and that they were fighting in a special territory. The other students murmur in understanding, realizing why the challenge was so difficult. Kanzaki, however, crosses his arms, having already deduced the truth. He realizes the training was made harder on purpose, as Hajime-sensei is there to recruit outstanding students. His thoughts drift to the images of the battlefield he saw. That special territory, he realizes with growing unease, had far too many things in common with the world of Astral Border. He thinks of his old companions from a game world, his resolve strengthening. He wants to understand this new reality, and more than anything, he wants to meet them again. Meanwhile, Hajime-sensei reviews the incident from the training exercise. A 5-meter-tall rock golem had appeared after several rock slimes fused together. The teacher smirks, believing that if he could just talk things over with Kanzaki, he might get the answers he's looking for. He explains to his colleague that even during an adventuring journey, one must sometimes deal with unique class monsters. Therefore, this situation isn't a matter reserved solely for the subjugation department. He gestures with an open hand, adding that this time, something wonderfully incredible had occurred. That incredible event was the successful subjugation of the monster by Kanzaki and Kurosu. They stand together as the result is announced, while a nearby student grits his teeth in frustration. Their victory draws shocked stares from the other students, including Fuwa. Kanzaki turns to his partner, asking if she is okay. A flustered Kurosu quickly confirms that she is. Observing the outcome, Hajime-sensei raises a finger and makes a proposal. For the sake of both pairs' growth, he suggests having the representatives from each department work together. He addresses the students directly from the subjugation department, the Orikura group, and from the adventure department, the Kanzaki-Kurosu pair. Both Kanzaki and Kurosu are stunned. Internally, Kanzaki realizes this is his chance. Working with them could widen the range of his investigation. He hesitates for a moment, a flicker of concern crossing his face as he considers that this arrangement might become a burden for Kurosu. Before he can object, Kurosu looks at him, a faint blush on her cheeks. She assures him she'll be fine and declares with conviction that she will follow him. Kanzaki watches her, a small, knowing smile forming on his lips. He looks forward with unwavering resolve, formally accepting the position. With his hand to his collar, he states that he will take on the role of representative. On the other side of the training field, the blonde swordswoman, Orikura, flanked by her two aides, agrees to the terms as well. With both parties in accord, Hajime-sensei declares the matter settled. He dismisses the students, telling them to rest and prepare for their next remedial lesson. As Kanzaki and Kurosu begin to walk away, Hajime-sensei calls out, stating he almost forgot something. The two students pause and turn back, curious. He holds out his business card, explaining that it will grant Kanzaki access to the subjugation department's facilities. Leaning in close, the teacher's tone becomes conspiratorial. He tells Kanzaki that if he ever runs into trouble in this world, he should call. The unexpected offer leaves Kanzaki momentarily stunned. With a final wave, Hajime-sensei departs. As he walks away, he muses to himself about the strange young man, feeling as though Kanzaki somehow knew his secret. Kanzaki examines the card. Though the teacher's motives are unclear, he recognizes this as a definite step forward for his own goals. Across the grounds, Orikura instructs her team to head back. With a thoughtful glance over her shoulder, she decides that this is enough for one day. Later, as he and Kurosu walk side by side, Kanzaki begins to apologize for getting her involved in the representative role. She quickly dismisses his concern, assuring him with a warm expression that as long as she is with him, she'll be fine. Their quiet moment is shattered by a sharp command to wait. Fua steps out from behind a tree, blocking their path with a hostile glare. He aggressively demanded to know if Kanzaki had truly defeated the rock golem, finding it impossible to believe. Kanzaki calmly confirmed it, adding that Kurosu's performance was also a key factor. With a steady gaze, he then insisted that Fua apologize to Kurosu for his previous insults. As Kurosu looked down, Fua reluctantly conceded that they had won the match. Kurosu, however, intervened on Fua's behalf. She explained to him that his poor performance was merely due to a bad attribute matchup, and that he had been amazing. She admitted that without Kanzaki's presence, she would have been useless. With a gentle smile, she offered encouragement, assuring him he would pass next time and that she was cheering for him. Her words seemed to strike a chord. Fua stood silently for a moment, his face cast in shadow, before quietly admitting that it was his own fault. Kanzaki observed his change in demeanor. Then, standing before Kanzaki and Kurosu under the city lights, he bowed his head deeply and offered a sincere apology. Kurosu reacted with surprise, uttering his name in disbelief. He confessed that he tends to panic whenever he encounters someone stronger than himself. With a final, determined vow that he would not lose again, he turned and sprinted away into the night. As they watched him go, Kanzaki reflected internally on how much Kurosu had changed since before the practical exam. She then formally introduced herself as Kurosu Koyomi, stating that she would be in his care from now on. He continued to observe her, thinking to himself that she had indeed grown stronger. He concluded that she wasn't a bad person. In fact, she was kind. His prolonged stare made Kurosu flustered, and she asked if there was something on her face, her cheeks flushing as she questioned his gaze. At night, Kanzaki Raito is presented with a celebratory feast. His supposed sister, EA, holds up a party popper and congratulates him on passing his practical test. He looks on, surprised that she prepared such a lavish meal for the occasion. She beams with pride, adding that on top of passing, he also became the representative of the adventure department. Urging him to eat, she calls him Oni-ai-chan. He thanks her, calling her "E," and begins to eat, though his mind drifts to a time not long ago. He recalls his past, trapped for 3.5 years inside a game called Astral Border, standing alongside his trusted companions. Returning to the present moment at the dinner table, he reflects that while he managed to return to the real world with his companions' help, it was a reality he didn't recognize. EA notices his weary expression and cheerfully declares that she'll do something nice for him later. He quietly wonders what she could mean. Later, he finds himself lying face down on his bed as EA sits on his lower back, having come to give him a massage. He protests that he isn't tired, but she brushes off his complaint, insisting that it's fine. Leaning over him, she confidently states that while she may not look the part, she is actually very skilled at giving massages. As she begins, she asks if it feels good. He quietly admits that it does, and for a moment, he begins to somewhat accept the strange new reality he is in. The next morning, Kanzaki arrives at the academy in his school uniform. He is immediately met by a crowd of enthusiastic classmates, including Kawasaki, all shouting cheerful greetings. He arrives at school only to be immediately swarmed by his classmates. They bombard him with questions about the special territory, their voices a chaotic chorus as he stands silently, trying to process the sudden onslaught. The classroom buzzes with talk of the upcoming remedial course. Students fret over how to defeat rock slimes and kobolds, some lamenting their lack of an elemental attribute. Amidst the chatter, Minamino sits calmly on a desk, observing Kanzaki's predicament. She decides that if the others swarm him too much, she'll just ask Hirose-san for information instead. She remains completely unfazed by the surrounding anxiety, casually cleaning her ear with a small tool, the picture of detached confidence. Her composure is a stark contrast to the students still clamoring for Kanzaki's attention. They shout over one another, each demanding to be first, forcing him to plead for them to approach one at a time. The atmosphere around him has completely changed due to the overwhelming attention. As the students continue to call his name, Kurosu Koyomi watches from a distance, feeling a pang of sympathy for him. Having reached his limit, Kanzaki's expression hardens. The incessant noise has become too annoying. He clenches his fist and invokes a skill, chanting Vanish Rune, as his body begins to glow and fade. In an instant, he is gone, leaving the crowd of students staring at the empty space. They cry out in shock, realizing he used a skill to disappear, and quickly decide to search for him, convinced he can't have gone far. He finds a moment of peace elsewhere, reflecting that his new student life, filled with constant social interaction, wasn't as engaging as his time in the game. Recalling his old party, he decides this is no time for distractions and pulls out a business card from Majima-sensei, intending to find a new place to go. His thoughts are interrupted by a panicked shout. Orikura Setsuri rushes towards Minamino, pleading for help and exclaiming that Fuwa-kun is in serious trouble. Standing nearby, Kanzaki's attention is caught by the mention of Fuwa's name. Drawn into the new crisis, he follows Setsuri. He grimaces, thinking to himself that Fuwa has probably done something reckless again. Their destination is clear, the Kazamine Academy Training Hall. He found himself pinned to the classroom floor, utterly bewildered as Minamino aggressively grabbed his uniform, demanding to know what was happening. As she began to disrobe, she revealed her motive. In 1 month, there would be a buddy reassignment. From the floor, Kanzaki could only demand to know why she was stripping. She admitted with a blush that she had been tricked, then stated her true intention. She desperately wanted to team up with him when the time came. Her thoughts then turned to her current partner, Fua, and the trouble he was supposedly in. He sat up, reminding her that she was already partnered with Fua. She dismissed this, leaning closer to insist she would rather be with Kanzaki and was willing to do anything to make it happen. He immediately recognized her desperate proposition for what it was, a honey trap. Pointing accusingly, he deduced her strategy of fighting poison with poison. As he spoke, the faint magical aura of a charm rune emanating from her dissipated, its effect broken by his perception. He stood and straightened his uniform, completely unfazed. Her confidence shattered. Minamino could only watch, flustered and speechless. His thoughts drifted to his own concerns about the reassignment, recalling Kurosu Komi's desperate plea. He remembered her fear of being forcefully recruited by other students if they were separated. The memory solidified into a quiet classroom moment. Koyomi at her desk, looking up from a binder with a gentle smile to wish him a good morning. Returning to the present, he approached her desk and offered a morning greeting. Sensing her unease, he asked if something was wrong, but she could only stammer in response. Before she could answer, Fua interjected from a nearby desk, casually suggesting to Koyomi that they relocate to talk. Her eyes widened in alarm at his sudden appearance. She stands beside Kanzaki, who leans against a railing in disbelief, demanding to know if Fua was the one who saved her. She confirms it, explaining that when everyone was bombarding her with questions, Fua stepped in and shut them down at once. She recalls him scolding the others, telling them to think for themselves, and she believes it was his way of repaying a favor. She admits her surprise at suddenly being needed by everyone, especially since she was used to just sitting in the corner of the classroom until yesterday. Hearing this, Kanzaki apologizes, feeling that the situation is somehow his fault. She turns to him with a gentle expression, disagreeing. She tells him that it's actually fun and that accepting change can also be nice. He looks away, a thoughtful expression on his face. When she asks if he said something, he dismisses it as nothing, but internally he acknowledges her strength, thinking to himself how amazing she is. His thoughts deepen as he gazes out over the city. He reflects that he hasn't been able to completely accept this new reality and is still confused. He feels that if he were to accept everything, he would be swallowed up by this world. Stealing his resolve, he decides that finding information about his missing comrades and this reality must come first. He arrives at a new location, noting how different it is from the adventurers department. As he takes in the futuristic surroundings, a familiar voice greets him. It is Minamino. He turns, surprised, but it is not Minamino who stands before him. It is Orikura Setsuri. She states that she knew he would come and asks if he has some time. Inside a bustling training facility, Orikura Setsuri walks alongside Kanzaki Raito. She confirms that the subjugation department is entirely specialized for combat and asks if he is certain he only wants to observe. Kanzaki, looking slightly hesitant, replies that for now, at least, that is his intention. As they continue, she mentions that she actually has a favor to ask him. He seems surprised by the request, but tells her he doesn't mind. He notices her fidgeting slightly and observes that she seems nervous. She dismisses his concern, stating that while she is already gathering information, this particular matter is different. She then announces their arrival at one of the highlights of the subjugation department as a large set of doors slides open before them. The doors reveal a vast, circular, and empty chamber with a raised walkway leading towards the center. She explains that this is the Colosseum, a place where they fight monsters. He reacts with stunned disbelief, questioning how it's possible to fight monsters here. Orikura clarifies that they can only fight against monsters whose combat data has been recorded in their bracers. His gaze falls to the device on his own wrist, a gift from his sister, Ye. He wonders if the bracer she gave him possesses the same incredible function. She notices that his bracer is shaped differently from her own. Flustered, he quickly calls her over for a moment. He then activates the device, bringing up a holographic menu. His finger selects a G-rank little imp from the list, and his hand clenches as the simulation prepares to begin. He watched as a G-rank little imp materialized in a flash of light within the holographic arena. Orikura, observing from the side, confirmed that his bracer appeared to be functioning without issue, offering a quiet word of thanks. He processed the information, realizing that since the Academy managed a special territory, it was logical they could create such a sophisticated system. Orikura explained the simple procedure. Select a monster, then begin the battle. Turning to her, he remarked that it felt pathetic for the top student to have been saved by him. Orikura acknowledged that such advanced facilities were expected of the subjugation department, which is how students like her grow strong, yet her expression hinted there was more to say. He disagreed, insisting it was his fault for arriving late. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been forced to push herself so hard. Orikura refuted his claim, her gaze hardening with determination as she declared her own need to become stronger. Her resolve prompted him to question her motivation. Standing across the arena, he asked why she felt such a drive to become stronger when, In his eyes, she was already powerful enough. She began to explain, her thoughts drifting to the grim reality of their world. For the last 50 years since the world erosion began, anomalous manifestations have occurred somewhere every single day, and countless people have become victims. His own memories stirred at her words. He recalled the mother and child in the park, realizing they could have easily met that same fate. He now understood her purpose. She wanted to help people like them, and to do that, she needed the strength to protect them. Her expression softened, a blush rising to her cheeks. She looked at him and declared that she wanted to, with him, Kanzaki, in a special way. She felt that with him, it would work. Kanzaki froze, completely stunned by the implications of her poorly chosen words. His mind immediately conjured an intimate fantasy based on her phrasing. He cried out her name, exclaiming that her explanation was only making it sound more and more wrong. Oblivious, Orikura simply wondered if what she said sounded strange. Realization finally dawned on her. Flustered, she waved her hands frantically, insisting that's not what she meant. She shouted that she wanted to do special training with him. Still processing the whiplash, Kanzaki could only ask, training. He watches as Orikura, blushing and hesitant, finally voices her request. She asked if he could make her stronger, too, just as he did for Kurosu. To justify her plea, she points to Kurosu's dramatic improvement, noting that after teaming up with him, Kurosu's results skyrocketed to the point where she became a student representative for their class. Kanzaki clarifies that Kurosu already possessed the underlying ability to begin with. Misunderstanding his point, Orikura's face falls as she asks if that means she has no room to grow. He quickly corrects her, stating that isn't true and agrees to try training together. Her expression brightens as she gratefully accepts. With a sigh of relief, she confesses she had been worried about what she would do if he said no. At that moment, Kanzaki understands. Her earlier nervousness stemmed from this fear of rejection. Sometime later, inside a training facility, Orikura heads off to get ready. Now in a tracksuit, Kanzaki stands alone, contemplating their next move. He has agreed, but now he must decide what kind of training they should do, considering how different it was with Kurosu. His mind drifts back to Kurosu's training, which involved leveling up through real combat and awakening her latent abilities. He considers Orikura's potential, recognizing her as a rare cold element user whose sword skills would be far more effective if not constrained by standardized forms. He wonders if she, too, has a hidden ability. His thoughts are interrupted as Orikura returns, apologizing for the wait. She now wears a sleek, form-fitting white and black combat suit. Kanzaki compliments the outfit, and she explains it's a high-performance suit made with impact-absorbing reinforced fibers. Ready for action, she asks him what they should start with. He proposes a live combat test. They will fight monsters summoned at random, allowing them to adjust their strategy as they go. Orikura agrees, confirming the controls are fine on her end. At a nearby console, Kanzaki initiates the simulation. A holographic display confirms the materialization of 3 Jirank imps onto the training floor. He notes that the system appears to be functioning perfectly. He offers a final instruction, promising to back her up if things get dangerous. With a determined acknowledgement, Orikura leaps forward, sword at the ready, to engage the newly formed monsters. She dispatched the summoned imps with an ease that confirmed Kanzaki's assessment. Watching from the control room, a faint smile touched his lips. Her performance was just as he had expected. Turning to face him, she asked what the next challenge would be, placing her trust entirely in his hands. From his seat at the console, Kanzaki replied that he would raise the difficulty level a bit more. He explained that continuing at the current level wouldn't be an effective test of her abilities. A determined glint appeared in Orikura's eyes as she agreed that this was exactly what she wanted. Reaching for the console herself, she declared that the next opponent would be stronger and activated the next sequence. In response to her command, the simulator floor glowed as digital particles coalesced into a towering, brutish figure. A system interface materialized beside the creature, identifying the new threat, a D-rank Orc Lord. Her confident demeanor vanished instantly, replaced by wide-eyed shock. She stared at the hulking monster, stammering in disbelief as she questioned if it was truly an Orc Lord. Inside a training simulation, Orikura Setsuri leaps towards a massive, hulking Orc Lord, her sword extended. From the observation area, Kanzaki Raito watches intently, urging her to remain calm. He expresses his confidence that with her power, she should be able to win. With a determined look, she quietly agrees, saying she will try. He continues his coaching, warning her that when she attacks at close range, she must watch out for its rush-type counter skills. As if on cue, the Orc Lord's body glows, activating a skill, Unbreakable. Setsuri's eyes widen in recognition, and she grits her teeth, muttering how irritating the ability is. Kanzaki then apologizes to Orikura, acknowledging that he knows what the Orc Lord has done to her in the past. He tells her that if she keeps running from her weaknesses, she will never change. His words seem to strike a chord, and after a moment of surprise, she steels herself and charges the grinning beast. The monster responds with a deafening explosive roar, the force of which momentarily halts her advance. She falters, questioning her own actions. From the sidelines, Kanzaki shouts for her to think carefully, warning that without understanding the strategy, she is bound to lose. Her resolve hardens. She declares that she can defeat it, that she must defeat it in order to become stronger. Kanzaki watches her renewed determination with approval as she closes the distance to the Orc Lord once more. With a powerful cry, she raises her blade, Kanzaki's words echoing in her mind, that this is a wall she must overcome with her own strength. She unleashes her technique, the Snowflake Sword, channeling immense energy into her weapon. Her blade slashes across the Orc Lord's chest, but Kanzaki immediately notes that the cut was too shallow. The beast grins maliciously as its unbreakable skill activates again, nullifying the damage. Setsuri can only watch in frustration. The Orc Lord's counterattack is swift. A powerful blow lands on Setsuri, cracking the armor over her chest. She gasps, stumbling back in pain as Kanzaki looks on in alarm. He points towards the control panel, declaring that he is stopping the fight. Clutching her wounded chest, Setsuri shouts for him to wait. With fierce determination, she insists that she is not done yet and can still fight. He pauses, his hands still outstretched, taken aback by her unwavering resolve. He can only murmur her name, his expression a mixture of concern and astonishment. He watched her struggle, his concern overriding his impulse to stop the fight. He pointed out that despite her words, she was only able to use one hand and was barely managing to dodge the Orc Lord's relentless assault. Her frustration mounted. Kanzaki had told her she could win, yet she felt pathetic. A painful question surfaced in her mind. Was she truly unable to become stronger, with no room left for growth? As he watched her falter, a realization struck Kanzaki. Her damaged gear was a distraction, preventing her from focusing and drawing out her full power. He understood that if she could only bring forth her true strength, victory would be hers. He resolved to let her continue. To overcome this wall, she had to face herself. "Orikura-san," he called out, his voice cutting through the din. In response, a brilliant aura of light erupted around her. The warrior found herself suspended in a tranquil void, wondering at the strange magic enveloping her. A profound understanding washed over her. It wasn't monsters she had been fighting all this time. She had been facing her own weak self again and again. With this newfound clarity, her eyes blazed with purpose. She declared her identity aloud. Orikura Setsuri, top student of the subjugation department. She then roared her conviction. She would become a subjugator and save everyone. As she spoke, her power coalesced. A new blade of pure, crystalline ice materialized in her grasp, layering ice upon ice into a formidable weapon. Kanzaki watched in awe, understanding immediately. This was Orikura's unique skill. She had shattered the mental wall that held her back and ascended beyond her previous limits. Her power radiated outwards, striking the Orc Lord. The beast recoiled, letting out a pained, guttural roar. He noticed a debuff automatically affecting the creature, a testament to the strength of her new ability. Orikura was about to become even stronger. Gripping her frozen crystal sword, she vowed not to give the monster a single moment to counterattack. She drove her blade forward, unleashing its ultimate technique, White End. The crystalline sword struck the Orc Lord's massive arm, and the point of impact erupted in a blinding flash of white light, shattering the air itself with the force of absolute zero. As the light faded, the result of the attack was revealed. The once unstoppable Orc Lord was now a frozen effigy, completely encased in jagged ice. While Setsuri stood composed, her unique sword still shimmering, cracks began to spiderweb across the creature's crystalline prison, signaling its imminent demise. With a determined cry, Orikura raises her sword high, unleashing a devastating final blow. A brilliant web of light erupts from her blade, striking the massive rock creature as she shouts the name of her technique, White End. The attack shatters the monster into a shower of rubble. Watching from a distance, Kanzaki notes her impressive strength, acknowledging that a normal opponent would be no match for her. Orikura, a smudge of dirt on her cheek, finally relaxes, releasing the icy power from her sword. Sometime after the battle, Kanzaki kneels before Orikura, his hand glowing with the light of a divine rune. He has surprised himself that such a skill was dormant within him. He offers to share his magic power to help her recover, and she thanks him. She then brings up the magic he cast during the fight, admitting that without it, she would have been defeated. She continues, explaining that because of his intervention, her own power jumped dramatically. Kanzaki, however, corrects her, stating that the magic she felt wasn't his own ability. He clarifies that what he used was a relax rune, a simple form of relaxation magic. Orikura processes this, a look of disbelief on her face as she questions if the power surge was truly her own. With a gentle expression, Kanzaki confirms that it was. He explains further, telling her he knew that if she could just remain calm, she had the strength to defeat such an enemy. A faint blush appears on Orikura's cheeks as she looks at him, quietly murmuring her thanks. His expression turns hopeful as he adds that when her and Croesus's dormant powers are fully drawn out, he feels this world will surely return to peace. Orikura listens, her gaze fixed on him. She turns away slightly, a small, private smile forming on her lips. She thinks to herself that it's nice he is considering such a grand future. Her attention returns to him as she reflects on his presence. She notes how he suddenly appeared in this world and, with some unknown, mysterious power, continues to save everyone. It's almost, she concludes, as if he is this world's. The word hangs in the air between them. Savior. Kanzaki looks up, his expression unreadable as he absorbs the weight of her declaration. He is startled by her proximity as she leans in close, her face flushed. With quiet intensity, she clarifies her previous statement. To her, at the very least, he is a savior. They exchange names, a current of unspoken feeling passing between them in the charged silence. The moment is shattered when a woman in a lab coat bursts into the room, asking urgently if Orikura is okay. She explains that an alert was triggered by a sudden drop in Orikura's magic power. Her gaze falls upon Kanzaki on the floor beside the now-seated Orikura as she demands to know what happened. Later, in the medical office, the teacher, Takashina-sensei, confirms that Orikura seems fine. She then gently admonishes them, stating that a teacher should ideally be present for combat simulations. Misreading the situation, she adds that she understands if they wanted to practice alone as a couple, prompting a flustered Orikura to vehemently deny it. As she denies their relationship, Orikura's inner thoughts reveal her true feelings. She reflects that it's not about being a couple, but simply that Kanzaki is amazing. When she is with him, she realizes she can discover a new, more powerful version of herself. He, however, completely misinterprets her flustered state. Walking away from the medical office, Kanzaki concludes that Orikura must simply have a one-sided crush on him. He quickly dismisses the thought, content that she appears to be in good health. The word savior continues to weigh on his mind, pulling him back to his time in Astral Border. He recalls his party, Mia, Ruri, and Soma, and acknowledges that in that world, he was seen that way. He doubts, however, that Orikura meant it with the same gravity. His thoughts drift to the desperate struggles within the game. Their sole motivation had been to escape. He remembers that it was only by gathering companions and working together that they were ultimately able to clear it. This memory solidifies his resolve for the present. He is certain that this new world operates on the same principle. The path forward is clear. Gather allies, cooperate, and overcome any obstacle. As he watches the setting sun, he concludes that this strategy is his most direct path to victory, whether he is truly a savior or not. His contemplation is abruptly cut short. Without warning, Kurosu Koyomi appears and pulls his head forward, pressing his face in her chest and leaving him utterly stunned. He found himself held by his teacher, Takashina-sensei, who was questioning his judgment for not planning to date Orikura. Watching with an intense glare, Orikura interjected, stating that it was impossible for a teacher to behave this way. The teacher, however, remained calm, retorting that their school allows for romantic freedom. As she continued to hold him, the teacher remarked that Kanzaki was quite charming. The word charm echoed in his mind, causing him to wonder yet again if he had somehow become a popular figure in this world. The thought triggered a specific memory from the game. He recalled looking at his status screen in Astral Border and remembered that he had intentionally raised his charm parameter, believing it would make him less susceptible to seduction during battles. Suddenly, it all made sense. He realized this was probably the effect of that high stat. As this understanding dawned on him, the teacher, still holding him close, noted that if that was the case, then there was nothing to worry about. Later, as the school day concluded, the teacher announced it was time to go home. Kanzaki confirmed he was leaving as well, the classroom now empty under the afternoon sky. Outside the grand school gates, Orikura prepared to depart in a waiting limousine as Kanzaki stood nearby with his bicycle. Before she left, they touched their bracers together, a faint light signaling a connection. Orikura confirmed that the process was complete. Standing apart once more, Kanzaki remarked on the convenience of the devices. Orikura explained that they had now registered each other's contact information. She then hesitantly suggested that using last names felt too distant, asking if it was okay to use his first name instead. He readily agreed with a smile. He told her that she could call him Raito, and that he would, in turn, call her Yukiri. The suggestion seemed to catch her off guard. A deep blush spread across her face. Visibly flustered by the sudden intimacy, she managed to agree that it was fine before bidding him farewell for the day, calling him by his first name. She bids him farewell, calling him by his first name and hoping to see him again soon. As the car pulls away, Kanzaki waves, a gentle smile on his face. He begins his journey home, cycling through the Twilight City. His mind replays the day's significant events, touring the subjugation department's facilities, witnessing Yukiri's ability boost, and the matter of the bracer on his wrist. He glances down at the device, musing that it likely possesses all sorts of functions. However, he admits to himself that he has no idea what they might be. His curiosity piqued, he looks at the bracer again, a bead of sweat on his brow. He decides to try something, tentatively asking the device if he can pose a question. To his astonishment, a voice seems to emanate from it, addressing him formally. He hadn't actually expected a response. In response to his query, a brilliant light erupts from the bracer, enveloping his outstretched arm. From within the glow, a figure begins to coalesce, its form taking shape amidst the shimmering particles of light. The light solidifies into the holographic projection of a young girl. She floats before him, her expression placid as she formally asks how she may be of service. Kanzaki can only stare, utterly bewildered by the sudden appearance of this digital assistant. Kanzaki stares in disbelief as a glowing, human-like form materializes from his bracer. He internally questions the impossibility of it, thinking, no way. The form of a human appeared from the bracer. The small, holographic girl corrects his assumption. She clarifies that bracer is merely the general term for the watch-type terminal, and that she is its integrated AI. Processing this new information, Kanzaki can only apologize for his misunderstanding. He reflects that he never knew the device had such a function, finding the visual effect of a floating girl a bit embarrassing with other students nearby. The AI informs him that her name has not yet been registered and asks for his instructions. As she speaks, a name immediately comes to Kanzaki's mind. The AI offers to display popular names and even change her avatar to a male version. Kanzaki immediately dismisses the latter, requesting she remain in her girl form. When she suggests foreign names like Latte and Elisa, he states a preference for something Japanese, finally deciding on a name from his past. Izumi. The name triggers a nostalgic memory of Astral Border. He recalls Dr. Izumi and her robot, Izumi number 23, whose knowledge and synthesis skills were indispensable for reaching the final boss. A pang of regret follows as he remembers the shame that recovery magic had no effect on the mechanical being. Returning to the present, he looks at the small AI with a newfound resolve. He officially decides on her name. Let's go with Izumi then, and asks her to help him on this new adventure. The AI, now named Izumi, confirms her new designation and completes the authorization. As Kanzaki gets on his bicycle, her voice speaks directly into his mind, telling him to call for her anytime. The bracer on his wrist glows faintly. He is slightly taken aback by the telepathic communication, but finds it preferable, thinking it would be embarrassing to have to call out her name in front of other people. Izumi confirms the setup is complete and asks if he has any questions. He pauses, his expression turning serious. He has two fundamental questions that cut to the core of his situation. Why is this world different from the world that I know? And why am I here in this world? He directs his questions to the AI, asking if she will simply ignore him if she doesn't know the answer. Izumi's voice responds from the bracer with a simple, unhelpful, yes, sir. Kanzaki is left frustrated by the non-answer, muttering, oh, come on. He concludes that his new AI assistant isn't all-knowing after all. Standing before a vending machine, he uses his bracer to purchase a drink for 160 yen, the transaction confirmed on his wrist display. The small expense brings to mind a recent memory of his sister, Rei, cheerfully informing him that she had topped up his account with 50,000 yen. Taking a seat on a nearby bench, he sips his drink and decides to check his finances. He asks Izumi for his remaining balance, estimating it should be around 30,000 yen after buying some training jerseys and other small items. To his surprise, Izumi reports a staggering balance of 3,210,000 yen. The enormous figure leaves him speechless. He stares intently at the bottle in his hand. The number echoing in his mind as a bead of sweat rolls down his temple. He demands to know where the money came from. Izumi clarifies that a total of approximately 3.2 million yen was deposited in 2 installments from the Invasive Species Countermeasure Agency. The term invasive species triggers a realization. The money must be payment for defeating the Orc Lord and the Rock Golem. Overwhelmed, he wonders what to do with such a fortune and resolves to discuss it with EA. His thoughts are cut short as his bracer suddenly emits a piercing alarm, its vibration startling him. The jarring sound serves as a grim reminder. He looks out over the city as a public announcement designates the area a special manifestation warning zone. He had almost forgotten the dangerous reality of the world he now lives in. He immediately asks Izumi for guidance. The AI responds with unnerving calm, stating that his residential area is safe and simply recommending he return home. Kanzaki is taken aback by the mundane advice. Despite the alert, he notices that no evacuation order has been issued. The people around him continue their evening, walking and talking without a hint of panic. He grimly accepts that this is the normal, everyday reality of this world. Deciding to leave the matter to the subjugation squad, he walks home. As he approaches his front door, he is surprised to see Orikura Setsuri waiting for him outside. She greets him with a warm, welcome back, to which he tiredly responds, I'm home. His surprise deepens upon entering, where he finds 2 more girls. Hayakawa Ruri stands with her arms crossed, offering a terse greeting and an apology for intruding. Beside her, Mitsuki waves cheerfully, wishing him a good evening. He stood in his entryway, bag still in hand, and confirmed his suspicion, asking if the 3 girls were friends of his sister. One of them affirmed that they were. Orikura Setsuri began to explain, but Kanzaki interjected, noting the late hour and suggesting they should head home soon. Unfazed, Setsuri introduced her companions, Kodorasuri, or Satoran, and Nagase Inaho, or Ina-chan. Kanzaki acknowledged the introductions. The reason for their visit was then made clear. Their homes were inside the current monster warning zone. Their parents had instructed them to evacuate somewhere safe. Setsuri added with a confident smile that since Kanzaki was so strong, they chose his place. Understanding, Kanzaki welcomed them, telling them to relax and make themselves at home, which earned him enthusiastic thanks from Satori and Inaho. He announced that he would start cooking immediately. Setsuri praised him, saying it was just what she expected, as the three girls eagerly offered to help. Internally, Kanzaki reflected that it made sense. Their parents were clearly preparing for the worst-case scenario. A short time later, the four of them sat around a table laden with a magnificent spread of food, sharing a meal together. The atmosphere was cheerful and lively as they ate, with Kanzaki looking on with a faint smile as the girls chatted animatedly. After dinner, the three girls enjoyed a bath together, laughing as they washed up in the warm, steamy room. Later that night, with futons laid out on his bedroom floor, Kanzaki apologized for the sleeping arrangements. Setsuri, however, dismissed his concern, cheerfully stating that the more people there were, the merrier it would be. As they settled in, the conversation turned to the ongoing alert. One girl commented on how long it was lasting and how scary it was, while another remarked that it happens occasionally and would likely be over by morning. Satori confidently declared that there was nothing to worry about, since they had Kanzaki with them. Her confident declaration was met with Kanzaki's weary, direct order, "Go to sleep." Undeterred, Setsuri held up a pillow and playfully announced it was time for a pillow fight. Kanzaki simply closed his eyes and wished them a good night, resigned to the chaos. He lay awake as the city slept under a starry sky, a fragile peace settling over the rooftops. Beside him, the chaos of the earlier pillow fight had subsided into quiet slumber. Nagase, Kadaira, and Orikuro were all fast asleep, their breathing soft and even. But Kanzaki could not rest. He quietly addressed his AI assistant, Izumi, asking if the current singularity manifestation would be resolved by the next day, and whether this was a typical occurrence. Izumi simply acknowledged his query, her voice emanating from a nearby device. His gaze drifted back to the sleeping girls. When Izumi asked if he knew what was happening, he could only admit that he had some inkling of it. Looking out over the city lights, the feeling solidified into a clear premonition. Something was wrong. A presence began to coalesce in the night, unseen but deeply felt. This uneasy feeling was a foreshadowing of an arrival, a truth that was not yet understood in that moment. High above the streets, a horned figure stood silhouetted against the full moon, her gaze fixed upon the city below. And as the new threat watched, the AI assistant remained placid, a silent witness to Kanzaki's growing dread. Kanzaki Raito starts his morning with a yawn, looking weary. At the dining table, a cheerful blonde woman serves breakfast, wishing him a good morning and calling him Oni-ai-chan. His sister's friends, Nagase Inaho and Kadaira Satori, echo the greeting. The blonde woman notes his tired appearance and asks if he couldn't sleep, to which he admits he felt strangely restless. His gaze drifts over to the three girls at the table. The blonde woman playfully suggests that his restlessness is understandable, given he was sleeping in the same house as three beautiful girls. Kanzaki internally bristles at her phrasing. Later, he and the blonde woman watch a news broadcast. Kanzaki observes that the citywide alert is the same one from yesterday, and notes that it's really dragging on. The alert for the singularity manifestation has now officially entered its second day. The blonde woman apologizes to Kanzaki, explaining that if it's still active by that evening, she and the others will have to impose on him for another night. He reassures her that it's no trouble at all. The impressive modern structure of Kazamine Academy stands under a clear, speckled sky. At the academy, Orikura Setsuri stands with her arms crossed, wondering aloud if yesterday's warning still hasn't been lifted. A passing male student casually remarks that there's no need to worry, as it's just an H-rank alert. Elsewhere, Kanzaki walks alongside Kurosu Koyomi and another female classmate. He asks Kurosu if she was okay during the alert. The other classmate answers on her behalf, confirming that she was fine and adding that her own house was outside the warning zone. Kanzaki expresses his relief. He then turns to the new classmate, offering her shelter at his house if she feels anxious. The suggestion catches her completely off guard. He steps closer, placing his hands on her shoulders and stating that no one else is home, which only makes her blush and protest that such an arrangement would be inappropriate. As they resume walking, he clarifies his invitation, explaining that his sister's friends are also staying over because of the alert, so it's not a problem. She seems to understand, though she finds it unusual for an alert to last for 2 whole days. Kanzaki can only agree. He listens as his classmate, Kurosu Koyomi, relays what she has heard. The prolonged H-rank alert is apparently due to a shortage of subjugator personnel. He quietly mulls over this new information, repeating the phrase, a shortage of personnel, to himself. The explanation makes a certain amount of sense, as a subjugator qualification is mandatory. While walking, he discreetly activates his wrist device, asking his AI assistant, Izumi, if there is any way for him to join the subjugation effort. The answer is evidently not what he hoped for. He resigns himself to the fact that, either way, there is no choice but to wait for the all-clear. He arrives at his classroom, designated 1F. Inside, the teacher lectures the class, reminding them that even a low-rank alert is serious. Kanzaki, however, stares out the window, his thoughts troubled. He wonders if he should really be sitting there while people outside are living in fear of monsters. Suddenly, a powerful explosion echoes from the city. An alarm blares as a new announcement declares that the warning zone is not being lifted, but is instead expanding to encompass the Tokisaki City North, West, and East districts. He stares in shock, unable to process what is happening. A dreadful realization dawns on him. The newly expanded warning zone includes the location of Kazamine Academy Junior High, his sister EA's school. He shoots up from his desk, startling Kurosu. The teacher attempts to calm the students, assuring them their area is safe, but Kanzaki interrupts her. He announces that his little sister is at that junior high, and he's going to check on her immediately. Kurosu is taken aback by his sudden declaration. The teacher, however, stands firm, stating that as his homeroom teacher, she absolutely forbids it. Kurosu quickly offers to go with him to maintain a buddy system, but the teacher shouts that she won't allow that either. He turns to Kurosu, telling her to stay where she is. He insists that it's fine, as he is only going to check on his sister's safety, and then he walks out of the classroom. He ignores the frantic calls of his classmates, who shout his name in alarm. Announcing his departure, he vaults over the classroom windowsill, leaving their protests behind. The young man leaps from the upper floor of the school building, launching himself across the rooftops toward the sprawling city below. As he travels, a familiar, unsettling feeling surfaces. He recognizes it as the same bad premonition that plagued him the night before, a sense of dread he cannot shake. Pushing the thought aside, he activates his skills. A speed rune and a feather rune flare to life, propelling him forward with enhanced velocity. He spots the smoke from the earlier explosion and realizes with concern that it's near the junior high. He races onward, hoping everyone is safe. Meanwhile, at the source of the blast, the scene is one of utter chaos. An overturned vehicle is engulfed in flames next to a massive, discarded machine gun as a voice cries out, asking if someone is all right. The call is for a female subjugator, who struggles to push herself up from the pavement. Her partner, a man in a beanie, rushes to her side, calling her name in distress. Izumo-san. She grits her teeth, urging him to forget her and take out their target. It seems impossible. Her skill-enhanced machine gun didn't even make the creature flinch. Her partner stares up at the sky in horror at the massive, winged dragon circling above. He shouts in disbelief, questioning how such a formidable beast could possibly be classified as a mere H-rank monster and wondering what is truly going on. Setting aside his confusion, he grabs his injured partner's arm and pulls her away from the burning wreckage. He insists they need to escape first, even as she protests in pain. They find cover, but the situation is dire. Izumo acknowledges that they are in no condition to fight, but she knows that if they do nothing, civilians will be hurt. Her thought is cut short as her partner cries out a warning. The creature is descending upon them. Before she and her partner could mount a defense, the wyvern unleashed its power, blasting a flame spear of pure energy that tore through the street toward them. They dove for cover behind the wreckage of a vehicle, their faces etched with shock and desperation as the fiery attack closed in. But just as the flames were about to consume them, a hexagonal barrier of light materialized, absorbing the full force of the blast. A young man in a school uniform stood before them, his hand outstretched as he activated a shell rune and asked if they were all right. His sudden appearance left them momentarily speechless. The male subjugator, still on the ground, recognized the uniform first, stammering in disbelief that he was a Kazamine student. The female subjugator confirmed it, admitting with some embarrassment that he was from their subjugation squad. She expressed her gratitude for the rescue, but her partner remained bewildered. He questioned how a mere student could wield such powerful magic. Kanzaki, looking slightly uncomfortable, began to explain. Before he could finish, the male subjugator urgently cut him off, warning him to maintain the defense. He stressed that if they were careless, the monster would strike again. Kanzaki affirmed, his focus returning to the sky. The man then identified their foe, his voice filled with a mix of awe and dread. He explained it was a B-rank lance wyvern, questioning how such a powerful creature could be present in this area. His words gave Kanzaki pause. He looked up at the circling wyvern, a crucial detail clicking into place. He realized there was no singularity manifestation nearby, the usual source of such monsters. A chilling possibility began to form in his mind. The implication struck him with full force. As he held the shimmering barrier steady, his eyes widened in alarm. He understood now. This monster wasn't a random occurrence. Someone was controlling it. A massive, draconic creature swoops low over the city street, its powerful wings kicking up dust and debris. On the ground, the subjugator Izumo tends to her injured partner, turning to Kanzaki Raito with an urgent plea. She apologizes, explaining she's out of time and needs him to rescue another person nearby. In response to the immediate threat, Kanzaki's expression hardens with focus. He raises a hand, and a hexagonal pattern of light materializes before him as he invokes a protect rune. The rune expands into a full-fledged energy barrier, just as the wyvern strikes. The creature's claws screech against the magical shield, but the defense holds firm against the powerful diving assault. Having failed to break through, the wyvern soars back into the sky. From the ground, the male subjugator in the beanie watches it ascend, cursing in frustration at the monster's aerial mobility. He continues to shout at the airborne creature, challenging it to come down and fight on the ground. He knows that as long as it remains in the sky, it will be nearly impossible to bring down. The creature is a lance wyvern, a B-class ranked monster. In the context of the game Astral Border, a beast of this caliber was classified as an early-game mid-boss. Kanzaki observes the wyvern, noting that its scales function like armor, rendering ranged attacks useless. Even the subjugator's machine guns failed to make it flinch. He finds it unbelievable that such a creature would manifest from a mere H-rank alert. As the wyvern dives again, he prepares a counter, casting a flame rune. He watches the beast descend, calmly acknowledging the reality of the situation. He knows that even though his own stats are rising, his attacks are still not working against the formidable creature. As the wyvern unleashes a volley of fiery projectiles, a flame lance, Kanzaki swiftly erects another defensive barrier, a shell rune, to intercept the blazing assault. With the immediate danger blocked, he glares at the monster, his frustration palpable. He thinks to himself how ridiculous it is that he, a support type, is being forced to fight this powerful enemy all alone. On the ground below, the situation was desperate. The male subjugator, Kitsuki, strained against a piece of wreckage pinning his partner, Izumo. He called out to her, promising to get her free, knowing that trying to fight while protecting the injured was a reckless endeavor. Above them, the source of their peril, the lance wyvern, let out a roar. To face such a creature under these circumstances was beyond reckless. It was a death sentence. The beast unleashed its power, firing a concentrated blast of energy from its maw in a technique known as injection. Watching from distance, he understood the monster's intent. It was a skill that amplified both its power and attack range, designed to finish them all in a single, devastating strike. His assessment was proven terrifyingly correct as the wyvern's attack split into multiple streams of fire, raining down upon the city. The entire area was about to be consumed by a sea of flames. His gaze fixed on Izumo and Kitsuki, trapped in the Inferno's path. A vision of Rei calling his name flashed through his mind, and a cold dread washed over him. He couldn't bear to watch someone die in front of him again. He refused to allow it. Memories of his fallen comrades from the game, Mia and Ruri, surfaced, fueling his resolve. Clenching a fist over his chest, where a faint light began to glow, he made a vow. He would absolutely not let this happen. In that moment, a spectral image of his former self from the game appeared, roaring in defiance. A strange power began to coalesce around his hands, and he stared down at them, bewildered by the phenomenon. The confusion was replaced by a sudden, impossible clarity. He recognized the power as Rune Create, an unregistered skill. He understood instinctively that by combining 3 types of magic, he could generate an entirely new effect. He realized this had to be the special skill he obtained after defeating the demon god Azareth. It had been dormant inside him all this time. It was a strange feeling. Though this was the first he was hearing of it, he somehow knew this magic intimately. He faces the wyvern's devastating enhanced flame lance attack. As the 2 subjugators watch in horror, he calmly extends his hands, initiating his newly awakened skill, Rune Create. With the skill active, he manifests 3 distinct magical runes in the air before him. A defensive screen square, a reflective counter circle, and an offensive freezing delta. He formulates a complex strategy in an instant. He will use the screen square to amplify the incoming magic and the counter circle to reflect the wyvern's own attack, concentrating the captured flame energy into his left hand. Then, with his right hand, he will unleash the freezing delta, combining his own ice magic with the reflected energy to send a devastating counterattack back at the beast. The 2 subjugators stare in utter disbelief. They realize he is controlling 3 spells simultaneously, wielding flames in his left hand and ice in his right, a feat they thought impossible. He understands that simply reflecting the flame lance won't be enough to defeat the wyvern. To secure victory, he must combine its power with his own magic. With a determined shout, he unleashes the combined power, sending a massive, spiraling vortex of ice and fire hurtling through the air to pierce the creature. The dual attribute attack strikes true, penetrating the wyvern's special armor. The subjugators can only whisper in amazement at the incredible display of power. After the dust settles, Kanzaki stands over the now recovering female subjugator, having used healing magic on her. The male subjugator expresses his gratitude, while his partner marvels at Kanzaki's immense strength and his ability to use healing magic. He politely declines their thanks, stating he must leave. As he walks away, the male subjugator remarks to his partner that Kanzaki is exactly the type of person they need on the subjugation team, and she silently agrees. He races through the residential streets, his feet a blur against the pavement as he pushes himself to his limits. A single, desperate thought consumes his mind, picturing his sister's smiling face. He silently pleads for EA to be safe.